Welcome, everybody. The room's full of energy. Excited. Welcome to our City Council meeting and Ojai Redevelopment Agency, successor agency. Regular meeting at 7 o'clock. It's January 13, 2015. Could we start with roll call?
Councilmember Clapp. Present. Councilmember Haney.
Here.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz.
Here.
Mayor Lara.
Here. And could Councilmember Clapp lead us to our Pledge of Allegiance?
Follow me. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To begin, I'm going to turn it to our city manager, Mr. Clark. He's going to be introducing our new finance director.
Thanks. Mr. Livingston, could you come up? So I'd like to introduce to the City Council and the community our new finance director, Rudolph Livingston. Rudy's a 10-year resident of the city of Ojai. For the past 4 years, he's been the assistant finance director in the city of Ventura, and before that, he was the accounting manager in the city of Santa Barbara. So very well qualified, and we're very glad to have him on board.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited about the opportunity to work here in the city where, I call home. As I tell people, it's nice to finally get to know Ojai after I know Santa Barbara and Ventura. So I'm looking forward to working with each one of you and working with the citizens here and helping to continue the great financial leadership that we've had over the last several years. So.
And welcome. We're going to go ahead with our commissioners report and Vice Chair Walker.
Thank you. Craig Walker, 1160 Lake Avenue, Vice Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. December was not a good month for the Historic Preservation Commission. Unfortunately, the Commission was not able to save the historic and architectural integrity of one of Ojai's most important landmarks, the Neff Lounge. I know you must agree, at least in part, because each one of you spoke about what a difficult decision it was for you to approve the project. Some of you even made an 11th hour attempt to save some of the architectural integrity of the building. For the Historic Preservation Commission, losing the integrity of landmark number 9 was particularly devastating because we are the appointed guardians of the city's landmarks, and it was ruined on our watch. The Neff Lounge is one of several architectural masterpieces donated by Mr. Libby to the people of the Ojai Valley. Each one of Mr. Libby's buildings is a work of architectural beauty. Our responsibility is to preserve them so that future generations can enjoy them as we have. The forces of progress always threaten historic buildings, but we have the means to protect them through the city's landmark program. If the Neff Lounge can be renovated out of existence, so can the arcade, the post office tower, the Catholic chapel, the Libby estate, and several other city landmarks. The demolition of the pergola in 1971 was a pivotal moment in the way the town views historic preservation. Many people still believe that it was torn down because it had been bombed by hooligans who didn't like the hippies who gathered there. The fact is that a group of businessmen came to the council and convinced them that the reason people didn't use Libby Park or shop downtown was because of the pergola. This group was trying to get HUD funds for redeveloping the downtown and believed that if the park were open to the street, they could obtain a HUD grant. The downtown has to change with the times, the council concluded, and down came the pergola. Well, the grant didn't come, and the loss of the pergola had no effect on anything, except now the city had demolished the whole southern boundary of REQA's unified design. But we learned from this. In 1989, when the arcade was threatened, the City Council stepped forward, took the arcade by eminent domain, and saved it from demolition. The council also saved the Catholic chapel and later supported a citizen's effort to rebuild the pergola. We learned from our mistakes back in the 1970s, and hopefully we will learn from what has been done to the Neff Lounge. Part of the landmarking process, which is written into the city code, is a slow, deliberative process for any project that would alter a landmark. This process was designed to give the city time to fully evaluate any proposed alterations to its landmarks. The city, the people of Ojai, and the Neff Lounge were poorly served by the rush to get this project approved in just 3 weeks over the holidays. In fact, the process may have violated the city's own historic preservation ordinance. Section 48.09 says, if the conclusion of the council is that a landmark or point of historic interest does exist, the property owner shall be prohibited from defacing, demolishing, adding to, altering, or moving it without having given 12 months' notice to the Historic Preservation Commission that such action is planned. I understand the city attorney says this provision applies only to the period between HPC nomination and the decision by the council to landmark. But 4.809 doesn't refer to HPC nomination. It says, if the conclusion of the council is that a landmark exists. The time period between the HPC's nomination of a landmark and the decision by the council to designate is covered by a different section, Section 48.08, under interim prohibitions. This section prohibits alteration during the 90-day period during which the council must make a decision. 48.09, on the other hand, refers to the time period starting when the council declares a landmark. But don't take my word for it. In a memorandum to the city manager in 2011, former city attorney Monty Witters, who probably wrote the Historic Preservation Ordinance, makes it clear, these are his words, if the city council declares a property a landmark, the owner may not alter or demolish the property without giving the Historic Preservation Commission 12 months' notice prior to such action, unquote. Turning to the city's general plan, it states, no demolition or alteration of designated historical buildings or properties shall occur in the city unless they are declared unsafe by the city or unless notice has been given consistent with city ordinances. This just didn't happen. The HPC got 1 week's notice, not 12 months. Hopefully, we have learned the lesson of why this provision is important and why it should be adhered to in the future. There are other such problems with the process that violate good planning and legal procedures. The HPC will debrief the process further at our next commission meeting on January 22nd. We will also be discussing our goals and objectives for the coming year, and we look forward to bringing them to the council soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Walker. Does anybody have any questions for?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
Yes, I know this isn't an agendized item, but I feel compelled to speak to this matter. Because I'm one of the council members that tried to stop this. And this is off the top of my head. I haven't had a chance to think about this, so excuse me if it's a bit incoherent. You, as well as the city council, were not given proper time to evaluate this project. It was put in between Christmas and New Year's for us to hear an appeal with the sense of urgency that it had to happen. And the next day after, with a vote, I woke up and I realized what a mistake I had made with the vote I had made. And part of the reason that vote was made was because of the sense of urgency. This pressure and really not having the proper time to evaluate what would really happen if we allowed this to go forward. I intend to never let that happen to me again, to never be pressured again like that, particularly in the holidays. It's unfair to council, it's unfair to the citizens to have this kind of thing come forward and be pressed into a time frame like it was. One of the things that I think that the citizens have been crying out about for a long time is the unfair treatment between applicants. This is a sterling example of that. One applicant got preferential treatment. This project was rushed through planning during the holiday season and put the council in the untenable position of having to make a decision under pressure with inadequate and inaccurate information at that meeting that was discovered at that meeting and later upon further analysis of the staff report and the plans. There's a good reason for taking our time with this kind of matter, and I urge the Historic Preservation Commission to review the historic policy in the city and help tighten it so this never happens again. We have precious few historical monuments and buildings in this town, and fewer every day because of this inadequately applied ordinance. And I just owe you an apology. I'm sorry it happened. And I promise you that to my best of my abilities, I will never let it happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm sure the whole commission appreciates that.
Does anybody else have questions for Mr. Walker? And I really do appreciate it too. And I still think that if the commission still needs those answers, I feel like it's appropriate for us to supply them. I know we've been working with Mr. Walker in interpreting that ordinance, and we just have a disagreement on how it's interpreted. But I really do feel that we should have that resolved before moving. That's part of what this experience to me presents, is the opportunity to clarify exactly how we both interpret that part of our municipal code.
And Mr. Mayor, pardon me really quick. I don't know when our next joint meeting is with the Historic Preservation Commission, but I would like to have it be very soon. I think that we need to sit down together as a unit and discuss what happened and discuss how we can potentially make things work better in the future.
And that would lead up to, we're having an item on today's agenda to talk about goal and priorities, and I think that would be the appropriate time to bring that up so that we could have a joint meeting. Thank you so much.
Mr. Mayor, if I have one question. There's Mr. Howard from my office is going to be attending that HPC meeting, and if Mr. Walker has this memo from the former city attorney, I'd love to have a copy of it. I've not had access to that. So if there's information that he has that for some reason we don't have, and I don't know why that would be so,
Okay.
I'd appreciate seeing that, because we want to get the proper interpretation. We want to make, but any legislative history we have is obviously helpful.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next commission report, could we have the Parks and Recreation Commission? Ms. Vice Chair Rylander.
All right, thank you, Mary Laura. I am here with the Ojai Parks and Recreation Commission, and I wanted to give you an update. Our meeting was last week, and we had very exciting meeting about a new playground structure that we're working on for Libby Park. The park playground structure that we currently have has been there for 20 years, and it's time to look into a new playground for the city of Ojai. Greg Grant came and presented 6 firms, brought in design intents for equipment concepts, and with different approaches. Most of them were typical modular playground structures, and the last one was basically more of a community design and built, which was very exciting, and actually the same firm that built the Kids World in Santa Barbara, which we unanimously agreed that we thought that would be the best option for Ojai, with the Lions Club wanting to participate in that involvement. It's just the beginning. They will gather more information, and if we take that route, it'll be absolutely a community-involved process and project. The way that it works, they actually come out, they go to all the schools, they meet with the children, they get to hear what the kids would like the playground to have as far as features, and it's built by the community. You basically hire this firm to come in and get everyone's needs and assess what everyone would like, and then the community builds it with the budget that we have. So it's very exciting, and it's just the beginning. We're in the, everybody can be involved, and it involves art, and just, it's really a cool process. So we'll see what you guys decide to do with that, where you want to go with that. But I encourage people to watch the video of the Parks and Rec Commission, because what Greg presented is all on there. You can see the different types of ideas and projects that they presented. The other thing, we also reviewed the capital improvement plan for the recreation facilities. We just did a quick overview, and then during our next meeting, we'll really dive into this next year and the years ahead. And again, we encourage the public to come to those meetings, because we're, here as a liaison for the community, so they should let us know what they would like to see, whether it's a basketball court, a BMX park, or more programming for all ages. So I encourage everyone's input. We also were able to announce the hire of Allison, how do you say it? I'm going to say her last name, Desbaye, who also currently works at the Park and Recreation facilities, and she is been a great addition. She helped launch our new website and a lot of new programming going on. I also wanted to mention that I believe it's this Friday night. I wish I had the correct night, but there's a kids' night out, or it's really like parents' night out. For a $10 fee, you can come to the recreation. This is for kids. To the recreation facility, and basically it's like parents' night out. They have a movie, they offer pizza, popcorn, and they're staffed and supervised while parents can go out and have dinner and come back, and it's really fun. They show a movie. So I think that's really it. Again, I just really encourage the public to come to our meetings, to watch our meetings, and to give us feedback on facilities and programming that you would like to see us offer. And I also want to say thank you to Rotary Ojai West for working on the shade structure for the playground. If you want to donate, you're welcome to donate to that. We'd like to offer shade for the new playground structure at Libby Park, and also the Lions Club for offering a partnership on a community playground. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for Vice Chair Commissioner Rylander? No? Can we have, yes, Ms. Chair Golden from the Arts Commission?
Thank you, Mayor Lara. Christine Golden from the Arts Commission. Short report. We have a new exhibition, sort of new, in the hallways, the two hallways all the way at the end down there. And just for the public to know, these exhibitions are open to the public to come and see the art. And in particular, this exhibition is of pieces that have been acquired since about 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014. So there are some terrific pieces that are owned by the city that have not been able to be displayed because of room, that are now on display. And included among those is the lenticular by Fred Rothenberg of the Libby Bowl, Old and New. And the way it's positioned in the hall, when you walk down the hall, you get to see both the old bowl and the new bowl, because the lenticular changes as you change your relationship where you're standing with it. So it's really kind of fun to see that, and I hope the public will come out to see that. We've also put on display some of Phil Harvey's photographs that we recently acquired that are very unusual. They're not photographs of Ojai. They're photographs of, I believe it's pronounced Palouse or Palusi. Palouse, thank you. And take a look at those. They're really spectacular. And then we have other pieces, a print by Linda Taylor, which is like a bird's nest, which is really phenomenal, and other pieces as well. So please, not just council, but I hope the public will have an opportunity to take a look at some of the collection that is really owned by the public. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about, and I want to remind everybody that at 6 o'clock Thursday night, we will be having a very brief reception for Susan Stinsmulen-Amend, who is going to receive the Hope Fraser Award from the Arts Commission at the meeting that begins at 6:30. So as you know, Susan has done so much for public art in Ojai, and not just in Ojai, but really throughout Southern California. So we feel very honored to give her this award. Any questions? That's it.
Thank you.
And we will see all of you at our joint meeting 2 weeks from tonight.
Thank you. Looking forward to it. I do see a couple of members from the Building Appeals Board. Would any of you like to update us? No? Yes. Ms. Hanson, so.
Hadn't planned on this, but we will be meeting sometime soon, I'm sure. We're going to have a joint meeting with the planning commissioners again. And we've been putting together our goals for the coming year, and I won't go through them now, but I think you have a copy of them.
Yes, I do.
And so we'll be working on a few things, and one of the things that we want to bring to your attention is the ombudsman. It still needs to be ironed out how that's going to work. So we'll be looking at that, and other than that, there's nothing. We haven't met recently, so we will be meeting soon, I'm sure, and look forward to all of your participation. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have anybody from the Planning Commission here? Yes. Chair Foster.
Good evening, City Council members. Steve Foster, I'm chairing the Planning Commission this year. Excited to be in that position, and looking forward to a year that I think is going to be promising to be very interesting. There's a lot of topics there we know that are coming up on the agenda. First and foremost, I believe, is we really haven't had the time to discuss our goals and objectives. It was essentially introduced to us at our last meeting. We're constricted somewhat by the Browns Act, how we go about that, as you well know. But in that short, brief time, we did discuss a couple ideas that we would like to cover. We have the second dwelling unit idea coming around, and we feel that it's a good segue from the non-compliance second dwelling unit that was covered in this past year in new ordinance form. So it seems that it's a good time to revisit that, look at the restrictions as they are in the light of a promising low-income housing. There's certainly a need there. This is one possible solution that we'd like to explore. Also, another idea was reviewing the design review process to a degree. It seems that there are ways that we could become more efficient in terms of the processing for the applicant, for staff, and for the Planning Commission in terms of our time and energy and resource. And a good example was actually at our last meeting last week. We had an applicant come forward with the Signal Professional Buildings, and it was required a design review permit, but it was a simple utility shed. And to go through the process that was required to get that approved seemed quite onerous in the long run. And we've seen this come up several times, where is it really necessary to take something of that nature and required to go through the full design review process, time, money, expense, and that sort of thing. So that's something that we'd like to discuss in more detail. What we could do to streamline the process, make it more efficient. We have worked things in the past that seem to be pretty productive, but those ideas, I think, need to be revisited. Other than that, I think we're excited about our neighborhood planning is moving forward after a lot of discussion over the years with the Planning Commission, and there's been a lot of talk through the community, and now we actually have something in place, instrument in place that will allow us to try to get some traction in that regard, to address the individual neighborhoods through our community in their own uniqueness and what best serves them in terms of planning, ordinances, regulations, and that sort of thing. Other than that, I'll leave it at that. Any questions? Or?
Any questions? Yes, Council Member Wyrick.
Thank you. You probably have ascertained that I have a keen interest in this neighborhood planning process.
Yes.
And I would certainly welcome every council person being kept in the loop as to, what progress is going on, when there's perhaps meetings with the planning commission, with the town planning people, with the sergeant planning group, or the subcontractor. I hear some of what's going on when I attend Complete Streets meetings.
Right.
But I think if there could be some special attention paid to making sure we're at least being kept in the loop as to what's going on with that process, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I know that Complete Streets plays a big part in this whole thing. Planning Commission obviously is going to be involved in it. Yeah. And ultimately, the community at large needs to be involved in it because it's going to require a lot of proactive participation from the community, from the individual neighborhoods. So we're going to be reaching out in that regard. Mr. Sargent will be reaching out in that regard to bring together groups representative of those neighborhoods. And so we can get the discussion rolling, basically. It's that simple. So, but we got to start somewhere.
Well, thank you, Chair Foster. And I really do appreciate all the commission's report. I'm really glad that there is a representative from every body because we do want to keep that means of communication going, whether we're just updating, whether we have questions, we disagree, whatever it is, we need to hear and we need to have that line of communication. So greatly appreciated. We're going to be moving on to our public communication. It is the time set aside during the meeting for members of the public to address the City Council Successor Agency Board on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the council board and will be generally be referred to staff and or placed on this substantial item. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken. Persons wishing to address the council board are requested to fill out a speaker's card prior to the council board reaching this point of the agenda. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes or less. And just to add, I would like to address and ask for you guys when you're up here to address the council as a whole. And obviously, we're here to hear your concerns, comments, so we want to listen to those concerns but not feel like we're being personally attacked just as anybody else in the public or anybody else that you're referring to in the public. I would like to have that level of respect. So if you could please keep that in mind. Our first speaker, Mr. Michael Francis Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Lara. It's very nice to be here before the council. I just want to say how excited we are to have the new council members here, and we're certainly very happy to have you in the mayorship, sir. I'm here today on behalf of Ojai Neighbors Engaged. We're the group of neighbors that organized ourselves around the cell tower situation. And I just wanted to come up here and make a public reminder to everyone that there is a telecommunications workshop that Mr. Clark has been kind enough to arrange for us. And I understand this is when the special attorney that has been hired, that would be Mr. Kramer, will come back to us with his first draft of the city policy pertaining to the installation of cell towers in our city. So I just want to remind everyone that was activated last year around this time that this issue is far from over, and we need everyone to attend that meeting. I left my notes at home, so I know it's January 20th, but Rhonda, can you tell me what time it is?
It's at 6 o'clock, and it'll be held at the Boyd Center over at Sarasate Park.
Excellent. So I just wanted to say also that I'm just observing in general that it is a really interesting time in Ojai politics. I think the general public is really expecting a new level of participation and a new level of interaction. So I encourage the city to continue to develop its city website and to make sure that there's a lot of interactivity, because I hear a lot, being part of one, I hear quite a few comments from the public. People are really, really wanting to see significant change. So we really appreciate those of you that have been newly elected. We look forward to working with you. Just want to remind everyone to please come out on January 20th. Thank you.
Mayor Lara, I just wanted to announce that the packets were delivered to you this evening for the January 20th meeting. They'll be delivered to the Planning Commission tomorrow, and they'll be uploaded to the website tomorrow afternoon. So anyone that cannot download or would like copies, just please come by my office or call me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember
Could I
Wyrick.
remind everyone on website interactivity that Rhonda, right here, members of the public, we were just chatting before the meeting, anybody have any ideas they want to communicate about what they want that website to do? Rhonda's ready and willing and eager to receive them.
Thank you. Former Mayor and former Council Member Carol Smith.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, and staff. It's very nice to be here. You got a little better view from that side, but it's okay. I started out on this side, and that's fine. I want to address what happened at the December 9th council meeting concerning the mayor and mayor pro tem nominations. And I won't tell you I am very unhappy about what happened. And I may run out of time to tell you this, so I may have to continue at the next meeting. The new council was seated. This was December 9th. Our city clerk, Ms. Besora, asked for nominations for mayor. Mr. Wyrick immediately nominated Mr. Lara. He stated that he thought long and hard about this and decided that Mr. Lara's best traits were that he treated everyone with respect and was very humble. Also, that of the three incumbent members he was the one who had not yet had his turn as mayor. In the staff report, Mr. Roderick chose to ignore the staff recommendation that the council person with the highest number of votes in an election should be considered for mayor. That would have been Ms. Clapp in 2012. He also chose to ignore his own statements that I have read in the newspaper that he feels that the most qualified person should be mayor. Ms. Clapp has 7 years of experience and has served on 2 of the most important county commissions. Mr. Lara has 2 years of experience and has served as none of the county commissions, VCOG, VCTC, VRSD, or Gold Coast. He is virtually unknown to any of the other councils or mayors of the 10 cities. Why is this important? I can't go into that now, but it is. Mr. Wyrick also chose to ignore the fact that Ms. Clapp is the only woman left on the council. He ignored the fact that Ms. Clapp had the rights at the dais to decide whether she chose to be mayor or not. Instead, in a conversation he had with Ms. Clapp prior to the meeting, she had expressed to him reservations about whether she had the time to devote to the mayorship due to time being taken due to family and work obligations. This conversation spread through the grapevine. It happened that I spoke with my friend Dale Hansen after the December 9th meeting, and I expressed my dismay about what occurred. Ms. Hansen told me that, smugly, that everyone knew that Ms. Clapp did not want to be mayor. I asked her if she had spoken to Ms. Clapp, and she had not. But apparently, Mr. Wyrick's wagging tongue had far implications. I do hope that the new council people decide that the business of the council goes on at the dais and not through rumors that circulate through town. I was literally horrified. I asked Ms. Clapp what she thought about this the next day. She said she was humiliated and shocked and felt marginalized by the men on this council. This is a pretty shabby beginning, and I hope I can expect better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. And just off the, I just want to make some comments to clarify. Again, if you come up, please address the council as a whole. We do want to respect everybody equally, no matter what their gender is, no matter what their sexuality, their race. It doesn't matter. We want to treat everybody equally, no matter what. And I just hope that it's not knowledge to me, anything that went on. I just hope that we're able to move on, and that if anybody on the council ever feels, no matter, again, what gender, what race, whatever, we're able to speak up and able to just be really professional. So, any other comments from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I
Yes.
never said those things.
Oh.
I never
Okay.
said those things.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Clapp. And I do want to move on. Meg Goodwin.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I just have to say how disheartened I was by the vote on the special meeting called on December 29th by the Inn when they came to appeal the Historic Preservation Committee and the Planning Commission denying their permits, you know, for them to show up with 6 attorneys and cry poverty and force you guys under veiled threats of revenue loss if they couldn't redo the Neff Lounge was just horrifying. And, you know, I just don't want to see this happen again with people that donate money and then call themselves conservationists and then go plow down trees. And, I mean, we've got to pay attention. Our staff needs to know that if it's a historic landmark, it needs a 12-month review for a permit. I mean, for the Inn to schedule to shut down for 2 weeks, January 5th, to remodel and apply for the permits on December 3rd is mind-boggling. Anybody in this town knows that it takes a minimum of 3 months to get a permit through the process, and probably rightly so we can review everything. But I just want to say, and I really appreciate Betsy addressing it, and because it was just a bizarre dog and pony show with them, and if they even just had the Inn, if they had any aesthetic sense at all, or honored the history, and marketed their Inn on the value of the historic golf club, you know, concept, instead of just continuing to build around it in this box-like fashion and then complain that their revenue is down. It's like they have the aesthetic, you know, design sense of a bulldozer. So anyway, I just want to, you know, I had to voice my opinion about that and just say I hope that we can have a staff that understands what the requirements are and that we can try to value the opinions of your appointees on the Historic Preservation Committee and the Planning Commissions. So thank you, and, you know, I understand it's a hard job, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Mr. Bob Daddy.
Mayor, Council, thank you. I took a look at the agenda, and I'm going to tell you, I was incredibly disappointed. I didn't see a change at all. What I see is a continuation of those things that we've been complaining about for years. One of the things I look at is I look at the composition, and I take a look at item 7, for example. Why in the world are we going to have somebody that is going to be announced for the Park and Rec Commission as a new commissioner waiting for 2.5 or 3 hours in the audience? I was disturbed when we had one of our leading citizens here had to sit in the audience for a couple of hours in order to be way down on the agenda, Mr. Mason, to speak for a couple minutes. I think it is pathetic that we have very small, time-consuming items where we make our residents, we make them wait until the very end of the agenda. I would think that somebody that's putting this together doesn't understand our Ojai community standards. When we have awards announcements and we're moving people, let's move the people through before we get to the contentious items. Let's be courteous to our citizens, and let's be courteous to the community. Now, we've talked about rushing things through and slamming it through and doing things, and we have been asking for years for this city to start posting the agenda 10 days out. And we're not able to do that. We have been asking, even though I understand there's a problem with item 3, we have been asking that resolutions and ordinances have authorship. Signed by, created by, approved by, something. Because when I look at item 3, just to be real honest with you, it looks like another memo from Rincon, because I don't know who did this. Now, we've been asking, so I'm going to help everybody out. I'm going to ask that within 30 days, this council adopt items that cost no money, restore transparency to this community, allow us to take a look at what's going on, and change the process and procedure that when you announce a meeting, any meeting, every meeting, just like we have a number of cities do, when you announce there's going to be a cell tower meeting, when you announce we're going to have these other meetings in the paper, that the information for that meeting be posted on our web. So when you see it in the paper, you should be able to go to the web. You shouldn't have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks to find it. That's within our capabilities, and it's zero cost. It has to do with courtesy and how you're treating the public. So I'm going to ask you to change that. If we can't get that changed, then we'll come back with something like a Measure B or a Measure C or a Measure D, and we'll go ahead and get an initiative by the people and help the council understand that we're really tired of asking for this stuff year after year in the face of transparency. And as former Mayor Clapp said, things get rushed. And had this been on an agenda, and had we had 10 days advance notice of anything coming up, then people would have had a chance to weigh in, respond, discuss, show up. But they go very quickly, and we don't have enough lead time. So I would ask you to restore lead time. Announcements, it has to be on the web. And as far as the web, it really needs to be interactive, because when we lost the ability to come into Ojai a couple weeks ago, our emergency radio broadcast was not working, because I talked to Ken. Ken didn't get the information that Ojai Avenue was closed and the power was down. That's not an emergency yet, but when we have it, clearly our systems aren't working. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daddy, and I encourage you to stay for item 4 because we will be addressing some of those issues that you mentioned. Very important issues. Thank you. Mr. Beam.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I provided my address to Rhonda. I have similar concerns as Mr. Daddy. It has to do with process. The largest group of stakeholders that are the heart and soul of this community are the residents. They are, in large measure, the people who have done things like write checks for Libby Bowl, supported arts activities, and what have you. You risk, by way of process, by not carefully reviewing what's going out by way of an agenda and what have you through the city manager, you really risk them believing they are, in fact, disenfranchised. That's a serious mistake. You have items on tonight's agenda that are of great concern and that have been of great concern to other communities with respect to commercial activities in residential zones. And yet, instead of merely a discussion piece, which is what the agenda, if you just look at the agenda, would suggest, what I see is a 14-page staff report, including a draft ordinance that, notwithstanding the statement in here, suggests that you may consider something like this and send it on to the Planning Commission to legitimize an otherwise illegal use. What is the public to think? In practical terms, you need to reach out to your stakeholders, especially when there are so many stakeholders that are involved. The residences of the average family is the largest single asset they have towards retirement. People value their homes, they value where they live, and they value their neighborhoods. You need to have a process where there's enough time between formulating what's going to be on the agenda and deciding whether you're going to have outreach meetings, you're going to have public hearings, or what have you, to make those decisions. When you read the staff report, it looks like discussion my backside. What you're doing is saying, well, by the way, let's flip it onto the city council based upon, if I read correctly, the best approach for developing recommendations from the city council. For one, you're not doing the planning commission any favors. What are they going to do? Say, well, we've got this lovely mission from the city council. What are we doing? You need to think about this issue. You need to do research. You need to do outreach. That is a flaw in your process, and it is a flaw in how these staff reports are being prepared, and not just thinking, wow, what might the public think? And are we answering those questions? Are we going to put the city council in the hot seat, or are we going to anticipate the need for input? This particular process right now, this item 3, shows a serious flaw in how you're doing things. And I hate to see it. It's what breaks cities apart. I'm an ex-city attorney. I've advised planning commission. I currently represent public agencies. I would never recommend how, in fact, some of your processes take place. It's a mistake, especially as it relates to your largest group of stakeholders. So you might want to give serious thought to process as one of your goal settings with that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beam. Mr. Steve Quillisi?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, yes.
For
Sorry,
the
Mr. Quillisi.
benefit of Mr. Beam, exactly what you discussed at the podium is what has been the decision of the council, and that agenda item's been completely changed. And it's, I believe that the new agenda has been posted, has it not? Where it's simply a discussion item. There's no action to be taken.
I understand that, Mr. Blatt. Part of the problem you have...
Could you step up to the mic just so the audience could hear you?
Craig Beam. I understand that, Mr. Blatt, and I understand that's an honest and accurate comment. The problem is you have to look at it from the standpoint of the stakeholders. They don't know that. I mean, my phone's been ringing off the hook and my email's ringing off the hook because people know I'm concerned about this type of activity, having witnessed its impact at other desirable places to live. But, you know, somebody who's doing this has to look at it from the standpoint of the policy-making hot seat that it puts city council on. Because you will have people that are very, very concerned not knowing the actual facts of what you're looking at tonight. And I understand your comment is accurate, and that's what the council are going to do.
Yeah. And no, your point has been definitely come across clear. So thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the council.
Mr. Quillisi, apologize.
It's quite all right. Thank you, Mayor and council members. I have 2 or 3 things very quickly to discuss. First of all, I attended most of an Ojai Valley Sanitary District meeting this afternoon, and I was very pleased to see Councilmember Haney there as a representative of the council. I'm not sure that I could find anywhere on the website who from the council, or perhaps a responsible citizen who's not a member of the council, being appointed as liaison to the sanitary district or the school district or a number of other governmental organizations in the area that interact certainly with the city and the city council. I went to a page on the city website where it talked about the council being advised by 4 commissions, named them all, and the Building Appeals Board, and then said the council also appoints members to other organizations. And none of the there was an area housing organization and a bunch of county things and stuff like that. But I didn't see the school district or the sanitary district or any of the others. And I would urge you to make sure that you do have someone on the council, or if it's legal, someone who's not on the council but responsible to the council, to attend all of these meetings and make sure that you know what's going on there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just to let you know, we will be reviewing that in item number 4, just different associations that we affiliate with and sit on. And then also will be item number 5 is we're going to be reorganizing our appointments to these different agencies because if I'm correct, council members or Mayor Pro Tem Smith was on that agency. So just any questions or any comments from the council? No. Mr. Coyne? Oh, no, that's discussion. I apologize. Would anybody else like to speak on public comment? No? All right. Moving into our agenda, our consent calendar,
Mayor Laura?
Yes, Councilmember
I have a
Wyrick.
question on item K, if I could have it pulled just for questions.
So I'll pull item number K. Any more items? No? Do I hear a motion?
I have a couple of questions on M.
So I'm pulling item K and M, and if there's no more items that want to be pulled, I would hear a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve items B, I'm sorry, is it B?
Yes.
B through L, keeping item M and K out for further discussion.
Here a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Clapp.
Yes.
Haney.
Yes.
Wyrick.
Aye.
Blatz.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes. Item K.
I had a question, and I suppose Mr. Clark could clarify. I noticed that on page 1-69, the traffic mitigation is assessed on new development. And the reason I'm asking exactly what that means, does that mean new construction not currently existing, or does that include renovation of an existing space?
It does not include renovation or replacement.
Okay, so in other words, if a restaurant is opening up, a new restaurant opening up on a change of occupancy, doing complete redevelopment, they do not pay the traffic mitigation fee.
That's correct.
I wanted to be absolutely sure about that. Thank you.
Anybody else from the council have any questions on item K? No? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move item K for approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Clapp.
Yes.
Haney.
Here.
Wyrick.
Aye.
Blatz. Laura.
Here, yes. Move to item M.
right,
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz.
I had this item pulled because I was a little confused as to why are we approving a schedule for the live broadcast of the school board? What?
So what the school board is asking for is preference on those days. They set their own schedule. But if we were to later on in the year schedule a meeting that conflict, this is giving them preference so they'd be broadcast. So
Okay, now, do any of these dates as it currently is, other than January the 20th, do they have a conflict with us?
they do on those two dates, and therefore we would take precedence on those two dates.
Okay.
But the remaining dates, like February 3rd, March 11th, and so forth, they're asking that they be given priority on those days.
April 21st conflicts.
Oh, does it?
Oh, I apologize. No, we're the 2nd and 4th. I apologize. You're right.
Council members, I'd just like to mention that this list has been forwarded to our IT person who controls the broadcasting, and he is aware that our meetings are priority.
I'm just, if our meetings are priority, and they happen to be broadcast on a day when we're not in session, then what are we approving?
Right now, there's no conflicts, but a conflict could arise if we scheduled a special meeting. And so if we schedule a special meeting and we choose to schedule it on one of these days, we're agreeing that they'll have preference for
I
broadcasting live.
All right.
And does that have to do because we're letting me use our equipment, or?
It's because you can only broadcast there's only one channel, so you can only broadcast one item live at a time. So it's just so that we have an understanding up front in case a conflict arises. There is no known conflict.
All right. I'll move to approve them.
Second.
Roll call.
Clapp. Yes. Haney.
Yes.
Wyrick.
Aye.
Blatz.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes.
Rookie.
We're going to be moving into our agendized items. I just want to make sure that I am going to rearrange the order of our items. I'm going to move number 7 up to number 2. I am going to move numbers 6 up to number 3. I am moving number 2 to 5, number 3 to 8, keeping 4 and 5 the same. So
Could you please repeat that?
Yeah. Does anybody have questions about reorganizing our agenda, or is everybody okay with it?
Perfectly clear.
Okay.
You're in charge.
And thank you.
As long as you have it clear,
Yes.
Mr.
City
Mayor,
clerk will,
we're good.
Okay.
Just
And-
point us in the right direction.
Hopefully
Yes.
you've renumbered them on your sheet, right?
Yes, I have. And I'm going to take this moment to recuse myself because the commissioner that's being recommended is my client. So Mayor Pro Tem Blatz is going to proceed with the item schedule.
Assuming that I have the proper order, we're now taking up item 7, which is the appointment to the Park and Recreations Commission. Mr. Clark?
And Rhonda Besor will handle this one.
Okay.
Okay, with the election, Randy Haney, who served on the Parks and Recreation Commission, was elected to serve on the council. So it's left a vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission. I, as a city clerk, advertised in the newspaper, on the website, posted it on the door here at City Hall, gave a date of December 12th for people to apply. I received 5 applications by that date. On December 30th, we held open interviews. The people that served on the panel were Councilmember Haney, Parks and Recreation Vice Chair Rylander, and Commissioner Basor. Out of those 5 applicants, they said it was a very tough decision, and they were pleased with the quality of people that have come out and are very interested in Ojai. And I encourage these people to apply again when there's openings. But at this time, they're recommending the appointment of Adam Dutter. And so before the council tonight, because part of the process is for the city council to ratify the appointment. So I'm bringing forth this, the appointment of Adam Dutter for ratification.
Thank you. Any questions of the council? No? Anybody from the audience that wishes to address the council on this item?
I'm not sure, is Adam here, is he? Yes. Oh, great.
Okay.
Stand or come forward so we can see you.
You shy?
You better not be.
He's coming around.
Okay, good.
Hey, Adam.
This is Adam.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening.
Hi. Do you have anything that you'd like to tell the council as a whole?
Just that I'm excited to get started.
Good.
Lifelong Ojai resident and have applied a few times, obviously, and ready to get to work.
All right.
A question just came up. I looked at Mr. Dutter's sheet here.
Yeah.
Registered voter?
Are you a registered voter in Ojai?
Not in city limits, no.
Is that going to change?
He doesn't live within the city limits.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's registered in the county.
Okay. I
Within
got
the
you.
county, yes.
Okay. Okay, so you're a non-resident. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
I just
Does-
wanted to clear, I wasn't
yeah.
sure which one.
Miners Oaks.
Yeah.
Does anyone on the council have any questions of Mr. Dutter? Then I'll entertain a motion.
So move approval.
Any further discussion? No? Roll call, please.
Clapp? Yes. Haney?
Yes.
Wyrick?
Yes.
Blatz?
Yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We look forward to having you on there. All right, we'll go back to the agenda. I'm not sure what the next item is, but Mayor Laura will be right here.
Congratulations. Congratulations. I just want to reiterate, I know we're on the time constraint. We're going to be here. We can't take any new items after 10:30. So I do want to be sensitive to those that are waiting on items at the end of the meeting. I have a presentation to give. I will try to shorten it as much as possible and possibly table that just to hear comments on those last items. They're not going to be really elaborating on them, but if you choose to stay, that's going to be available, but your time is going to be very limited, and I just, or I don't know if I want to consent or hear from my council members whether we should just table the last items instead of winning the 2.5. Okay, so we'll proceed then. But I just want to make sure that I'm being honest and that I'm not wasting your guys' time on being here because I know it is a very long meeting. So moving on to item number 6, annual attendance report from our city commissions. Could I have the staff report?
I'll be
Rhonda,
giving
could
the
you do
staff report. So this was brought forth at December 9th, city council meeting. The city council had some questions on city commission's attendance. I have provided in January 14th, 2014, when the city council set standards, the standards were no more than 3 consecutive absences in a year or a total of 6 absences for a commission that meets twice a month. And there was more discussion on that, and I have provided the minutes in the staff report. So what we're here this evening is to ask if the city council would like to change that policy where it would maybe remove the word consecutive, because according to the current policy right now, no commissioner is in a violation because of the word consecutive, even though 3 to 4 absences, some commissioners have 3 to 4 absences. So I'm looking for recommendations, well, to discuss the current policy and then discuss whether or not to take any action at this time or wait for this year, the end of this year.
Does any of our council member have any questions for Rhonda?
I found it interesting, and maybe some clarification from you in the minutes. There were some lines in the minutes talking about 3 absences a year, other lines in the minutes about 3 consecutive. I wasn't there, obviously. Was there a difference of opinion at that time about whether it be consecutive or not?
Yes, there was, and then it ended up, at the end of the evening, they stuck with consecutive.
That bothers me a little bit. Consecutive is a pretty high bar, and missing 3 meetings when maybe you have a couple council meetings in a year means you're missing more than a third very quickly, very easily. I certainly would like to get a sense of others on the council. We've not talked about this, about maybe dropping the word consecutive, and not making it retroactive.
Anybody have a response to Council Member Wyrick's question? I have one, and I was thinking about it, and I did read the minutes, and it's clear on page 3 of 5 of the staff, or 6-3, that we talk about 3 absences, and then in the next item we talk about 3 consecutive absences, and it was confusing. I was at that meeting, and at the time, I guess my reasoning was missing a couple wasn't bad, and I really didn't think about what that meant. Missing a third of the meeting during the year, when you put it that way, it is a good amount of meetings you're missing. And we're trying to straighten up communication. We're trying to be more consistent with our commissions. And if we're missing meetings, I think we're not being as consistent, as engaged as we should be. So hearing that argument, I would not oppose dropping the consecutive absences, in my opinion, for those reasons. But I'd be happy to hear from more of our council members.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Council Member
Most
Clapp.
of the commissions meet once a month. The one commission that doesn't is the Planning Commission.
Yes.
So 3 absences in the Planning Commission is not a third of the meetings. It's a 1/6.
Right. I think that's in another line that they're.
Yeah.
For a different condition on twice a month.
Yeah. I think
agree.
with the three absences
Right.
for a planning commissioner is acceptable. But yeah, 30% is a lot, because you do need to be engaged. You need to be part of the conversation. And we're depending on these groups for advice on what we think they feel that what we should consider. And if they're not participating on a consistent basis, we don't have a benefit of their expertise. It is a volunteer, there's no compensation, and I think that is very gracious on everyone's part to donate their time. So where the balance in that is, I'm not really sure. I tend not to be really draconian about it, but at the same time, I really recognize the importance of that participation. So I'm not really sure the best approach to take. Maybe Mr. Blatz or Mr. Handy has a thought on the matter?
Well, I'd like to say that being on a commission is you're accepting a lot of responsibility. And I think as part of the acceptance of that responsibility, you need to show up. So I'm not opposed to 3 consecutive meetings being missed, that you're having some form of, whether it's a verbal reprimand, something that just brings to light the fact that you volunteered for this position, and it's a very meaningful act of volunteerism in our community. So 3 consecutive in a row demonstrates to me that you really don't care about that commission. So I wouldn't have any problem with removing someone after 3 in a row. And then 6 meetings, that again clearly demonstrates to me, whether it meets twice a month or once a month, I'm not a fan of that either. I think if you miss 3 meetings, you miss 3 meetings. You know, you need to be responsible.
So you would be supportive dropping the consecutive, or?
No, I would keep the consecutive.
And so you'd be okay if they'd miss, say, 5 meetings?
No, I would say that if they miss 3 in a row, that's absolutely a reason to remove them from that commission. 3 consecutive, and what I would be saying is if they missed 6 or had 6 absenteeisms, that I'd remove them also.
What about 3 non-consecutive?
And 3 non-consecutive.
Like, for example, every other meeting all year, they missed.
No, because I follow up with when I said 6. So if you've missed 50% of your commission meetings as a commissioner, you're demonstrating to that commission that you don't want to be there. That's what am I clear on that?
Yeah, I understand your thought process, but I question only the logic behind that, because you can miss every other meeting, miss 5, and still be okay and still not participate, be close to missing almost 50% if you're only meeting once a month. And so that to me is.
So are we going to change the consecutive to remove consecutive, so if you just miss 3 meetings, period? I'd be for that also.
Yeah, that's the only thing I.
Removal or reprimand? Reprimand and then removal if it continues?
Yes.
Do we want to be that, you know?
Don't they have to bring it to the council?
And that's a good question, too.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I tend to think that, there's always an exception if somebody is, well, I don't know, if you're sick and you can't be at a meeting, you're not at a meeting and you need to be at a meeting because we need your participation. My inkling would be if you missed 3 in a row, you're gone, or if you missed 4 throughout the year, you're gone. That would be my preference.
And what would be your suggestion for the twice a month? Be 6 and maybe 7, or 6 and 8?
No, I'm not sure about the twice a month.
Okay.
Nobody's going to miss 6 in a row. I don't think 6 in a row is.
Well,
I think for a twice a month, it might be more scattered throughout. But if you're going to miss,
I think it reads now.
If you're going to miss 3 consecutive meetings, even when it meets twice a month, that means you're going to miss a month and a half of meetings.
So perhaps one modification might be, just to entertain a discussion on this, to read no more than 3 consecutive absences in a year or 4 total, or a total of 6 absences for a commission that meets twice a month.
Yeah, I think so.
Anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I'd comment on that is because one of the things about the Planning Commission that's very different is they are a decision-making body.
Right.
They approve things.
Right.
One's advisory. The Planning Commission has another set of responsibilities, and so it is really critical they're there, really critical. So.
Well, then I'll offer a motion.
Well, do we have to open public comment?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And if I may, for everyone's input also, I think one of the questions we're not discussing, and we don't have a copy of the policy in the staff report here, but one of your questions is what do you want to do? I don't think we'd have to amend the code to deem a seat vacant for a vacancy. So what this really means is that whatever standard you set, that would direct, I guess, the clerk or the staff to agendize consideration, and we, I don't know how exactly you want to say it, whether consideration of the status of Commissioner X
That would be my
as an
understanding.
agenda item on
Yeah.
what you want to do. So it's really a threshold of, you're setting the standard for attendance, and that generates some action coming back to you.
Right.
To decide, and that's decide what you want to do with them. So we're not talking about any.
So what we're really talking about
vacating
is a
seat.
notification requirement.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just one other clarification. We're measuring this on a calendar year, so we might want to clarify in the policy that it's January through December calendar year.
And I do have another question, Mr. Mayor. What about, there are extraordinary circumstances. You mentioned that, Mr. Blatz. I mean, what if you do have an illness, a death in a family or something like that? That's why, do we want to be that cut and dry? 3, you're out, or is it 3, let's have a discussion?
Yeah. Council President Cobb, I think that's what we're talking about. It's a notification requirement.
Oh, okay.
That it would come to us saying, here's this person has reached this threshold for discussion amongst us.
Oh, okay, okay. And if there's it seems reasonable, then okay, yeah.
And it's also on their staff report that was one of our conditions too from last time discussion, is that where situations like that happen, it's reasonable for them to miss or to have an excused
stuff
absence.
Happens.
Well, I'm going to open to the public. If anybody from the public would like to speak, I saw Mr. Daddy's hand, so.
When you look at the numbers, take into account that some of the commissions meet as little as 8 or 9 times a year. So you start talking about these numbers, you're not talking calendar year is irrelevant, numbers. So you're talking about 3. If you've missed 4, you only meet 9 times a year, you got a pretty big number there. While you're looking at that, I would like you to also look at liaisons. Now, I've been to a number of sanitary district meetings, I've been to a number of other meetings, and we don't have liaisons at all of the other independent agencies that control the way we get water, the way we flush our toilet, and the largest employer in Ojai, which is the school board. We have 0 liaisons going there. Well, we did, and I brought to this body a few years ago to finally get a liaison to the sanitary district. The liaison of the sanitary district did not attend a single meeting last year. I think that's unconscionable in view of the problems that we're going to have, in view of the plans that one of our other agencies has. And the council sits here blind because we have no interaction with what's going on. Now, I asked Mayor Carlon as her last duties of setting the last agenda to have the water people here and to have the sanitary people. It was embarrassing to me to have Mr. Wickstrom, the general manager, say, hey, I've been here for 31 years and this is the first time I've spoken before you. You know, we operate like we're in a bubble. We're not. We're all interconnected, and we just don't seem to have people that are going to go there and do the things. And so what I ask is, if we're running short of council and you have too much to do, when I can see that you're overburdened, you got a lot of stuff to do, you have people, Bill Miley, Judy Murphy, that know what's going on at the sanitary district. You have Pat McPherson, who has a great rapport with Casitas, has been there. Reach out and get some citizens to go if we don't have enough council to stretch. But just to ignore these other agencies, and they're going to go out and do their thing, and we're going to get blindsided with the reality, I don't think it's prudent. Thank you.
Okay. Any more comments from public? Yes, Ms. Hanson. Ms. Hanson.
Thank you, Dale Hanson. I was just curious, when you are a liaison to some commission or whatever, don't you have a backup? And if you couldn't make it that night, couldn't you have your backup go? And wouldn't that excuse your...
I think we do have an alternate. This is a different item that we will be discussing tonight. It's going to be...
It doesn't count for this?
No, we're more talking about absences for the commissioners. So, but it is a point
Oh, I
well
see,
taken.
while you're on the board, you mean? I mean, while you're sitting?
Yes.
Okay, I see. Sorry, thank you.
But you're more than welcome to comment on the absences from, no?
Okay.
And please hold that thought, because it'd be good to hear from you. Anybody else? Yes.
Just a
Foster.
planning commissioner's
Chair
perspective
Foster.
on this. First of all, I couldn't agree with you more on the importance of attendance. It's everything. I guess what I'm hearing and what's different with the planning commission is we do twice monthly, 24 meetings a year. In addition to that, we have, and this is just for FYI, okay? I'm not trying to make any agenda with this, but there's MAC meetings, there's special meetings, there's subcommittee meetings, and they add up. I would say myself, I'm probably looking at close to 35, 40 meetings a year. And so just keep that in mind. I like the idea of the notification because life goes on, things happen, and beyond our means and circumstances to prevent. So just leave it at that. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to comment? No? With that, I'm going to close I don't need to close it for a discussion item. Sorry. I'm going to turn it back to council to see if they have any more questions or suggestions or concerns. Yes.
Would it be appropriate to set a notification policy just as a resolution?
I was going to actually ask I think your direction that would be to ask the staff to come back to you with revised draft policy to actually vote on. I think
Okay.
we got to really put it down and so you actually see the language.
Okay.
And return to a future agenda with a revised policy reflecting your preferences this evening.
Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem Blatz?
I just have a question for Mr. Fletcher. An issue was brought up about the attendance of council members as liaisons in this particular agenda item. We're going to be talking about assignments later, but we're not talking about, in the assignments, there's nothing on the agenda about attendance. Is it inappropriate for us to make any comments regarding whether or not we believe that the public is entitled to know what commissions we are assigned to or other bodies we're assigned to, and whether we are actually attending those meetings?
I think that's a acceptable comment to make, just as long as it's brief. It's not, it's not on our agenda, but it's going to come up in your goals. It's going to come up if you just want to clarify the liaison agencies that
I think it's really important that the public understands that we are liaisons to other organizations and boards, and as such, we have a responsibility to the city and to our own citizens, whether they think that it has anything to do with Ojai or not, they generally do, to attend those meetings. And if we don't, I think we're not meeting our responsibilities as council people, and I would have absolutely no problem with the posting of attendance of council members at the boards that they're assigned to.
Any more comments from council
I
members?
certainly concur with Councilman Blatz's comments.
Yeah, Councilmember Haney.
I just want to be clear that I'm adamant about the responsibilities and the, not necessarily the responsibilities, but just the fact that when you volunteer for a commission, you're making a commitment to yourself and to your community, period. And it just can't be something, oh, I'm on a commission, aren't I dandy? You need to respect that commission, and you need to participate, and you need to show up. I just want to be clear on that.
Does staff have a clear direction of what we want to be brought up?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, thank you. Now we're moving to let me go back to my notes.
Item number 4, the goals.
Item number 4, the goals, that's right. 4. You don't mind turning on the screens? Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Well, welcome everybody. I decided to do a presentation. I think it's really important just to start off with, to start focusing on our goals. And well, I shouldn't say goals, reiterate what our goals are and look at the structure of our government so we know how to prioritize our projects. And as a mayor and as a owner of a company, I think that it's always important to have it in the first meeting and to go over everything. So if you mind, bear with me on this presentation. It is pretty lengthy, but I do want it to be interactive. So meaning I not only want the council to participate, add anything, questions, concerns, but I also want to open up to the public. And because it's just really important to start off with the right foot at the beginning of the year and make sure that we're all on the same page. I think that being able to organize ourselves brings that flexibility in case an item comes up as an emergency, so forth. So with that said, I'm going to proceed on. The city of Ojai we're so blessed to be here, in my opinion. I grew up here, and we have great structures. I mean, you have the Ojai Museum. You have our view shed, beautiful mountains that surround our valley, and just downtown. Everywhere you look, you have nothing but beauty, whether it be downtown or in our surrounding areas. I think in order to start thinking about our priorities, we need to look at our goals. And if anybody out there has interest on finding out our specific goals and objectives, the general plan is a perfect place to start searching for them. And it has a lot of elements for different reasons, for different objectives and so forth. But for now, I'm going to use the land use element, because I think that that's a good start for right now. Our goal as a city is a well-designed, high-quality, and functional balance of land uses which reflects Ojai's unique character and community values. This is straight out of the Ojai General Plan, so I'm just quoting what's already there. I'm not reinventing anything else. There's certain objectives of making sure that we accomplish this goal, identifying and the use of unique aspects of the community, provide a residential living environment, preserve Ojai's small town character, maintain a vibrant tourist economy, manage the interrelationships within the agency, within the community, and manage the growth and pace of development. As a city, we are a function of this goal. And I want to lay out, there's this perfect flow chart that describes how we're structured and how we should operate. And I think that it's important just to remind ourselves of that structure. The top is the citizens of Ojai. The citizens of Ojai really elect us to make sure that their needs are being met. Elects the city clerk, elects the city treasurer, elects us as a council. And us as council members, we have a duty of following through with those needs and concerns and services that they require. And we have branches where we accomplish those goals. We have our city attorney, which advises us on any legal matter that has to do with those issues. We have a city manager. We have commissions to make sure that we do those work, that we actually complete things. And under city manager, he's responsible for our staff, our community development director, our finance director, our police chief, our public works director, our records manager, and our recreation director. City council's duty and responsibilities. And you could find this information on the website. This is actually out of the website that describes our duties. Part of our duties is passing legislation, either through ordinance or resolution. Making provisions of the enforcement of legislation. We set licenses and other fees, set salary ranges, authorizes the annual city budgets, and approves expenditures. The last item we appoint the city manager and the city attorney. And we also sit on another board called the Ojai Redevelopment Agency. In reviewing our goals that we have as a community, I think it's important to stress our values. Transparency and open communication. I think this is one of the most important things that how we're supposed to operate as city officials. And it's on our website, it's a city council value statement. So it's nothing new, I'm not reinventing the wheel. This is what is already on the books. Accountability. It shows that we could have follow through, and it shows that we are accountable to the public. Engagement, making sure we're actually doing our homework and making sure we're actually researching and finding ways to accomplish these legislations that we want to do for our city. Respect. Through our structure, and as you saw, we have the sitting commissions. We have the Planning Commission, the Historic Preservation Commission, the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Arts Commission, and our fairly new Building Appeals Board. I'm going to be going through each commission and just highlighting different words that explains some of their duties and responsibilities as commissioners. Our current commissioners, and this is out of section 10-1.04. So if you want to read through all this to just get specifics, you're more than welcome to go to our municipal code, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to highlight specific words like advisory capacity on development and modifications, to advise and recommend, to perform other duties and functions. Some of the projects they're working on, they have an ad hoc committee that is very involved in the city. Their complete street. It is comprised of our commissioners along with other members of our community, and they're up there actually doing the work. And on one of our consent calendars, they were really active on getting one of the grants. So it is a fascinating group that is open to the public. Guidelines for landscape ordinance, second units guidelines that we've heard throughout the beginning of this meeting, and through a lot of people that have referred to those. Historical Preservation Commission. And I apologize, we are missing one commissioner in this picture, Miss Rose Boggs and Mr. Hill. That's right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Out of section 4-805. Now, this commission has a slew of responsibilities that are very specific. And I think the first one pretty much clarifies it: to inspect and investigate any structure in our city which is Historical Preservation Commission has reason to believe should be declared a historic landmark, historic district, monument, or point of historic interest. It's there to maintain, to recommend to the council, advise and assist property owners, develop guidelines, to inform and educate, to nominate, to keep a register, review proposed amendments. Projects that they're currently working on: landmarking the Friends of the Library building, reviewing all public buildings on site of merit lists of possible landmark nominations, possible historic preservation overlay zones, recommendation to council on reducing the new fees of historic preservation. This is a very active commission, as we see that their project list just goes on. Park and Recreation Commission, beautiful picture of Ojai Day. Section 2-4.104, act in its advisory capacity in the councils on all matters pertaining to recreation programs and facility. Become knowledgeable, receive input, review, participate, recommendation, report. Projects that they're currently working on: Sarasota Master Plan, the Livy Park Playground concept, which is fascinating. And if you missed their last meeting, I would encourage you to view it. Very good, interesting projects. Arts Commission. Arts Commission is really involved. just to show you what they've done in taking is their website. They have a current website that just has number of tabs. If you click on the calendar and you scroll down, they include anything that has to do with arts, even if it doesn't pertain to the city. So they're very interactive. They get very creative in the way that they decide to function as a commission. And there you'll see are some of our current and former commissioners. You haven't got an update on that. But just so you see that they want to be known. They want to be recognized. Duties and responsibilities, section 4-16.107. Advise the council on all matters pertaining to the arts in the community. Make recommendations. Encourage. Review and evaluate. Prepare and submit. Projects that they work on every single year. Public art. Public relationships. Art acquisitions. Awards. The list goes on. Our newly assembled board is the Buildings Appeals Board, and there you'll see our former commissioner, Mr. Councilmember Wyrick. Just a blur. The section 9-1.214 just goes onto their duties and responsibilities. They hear appeals that have to do with anything in the building code, and then they also advise and recommend anything that has to do with building codes. Projects that they're working on, second unit guidelines, vacation rentals, create a brochure explaining the steps of conversions, settle the issue with the ombudsmen. I mean, this is another board that is very active. I just want to take, I guess, some time. I want to go back and see, does anybody have any comments or clarifications on any of my slides that I have? I see some board members or some commissioners. I don't know if anybody has any comments. I really want this to be an interactive workshop, so don't be afraid to speak up. City attorney, I just wanted to put a slide on there, advises us on all legal matters pertaining to the business of this city. We got a budget of $100,000 to make sure that we're not doing anything illegal. Not that we would. Departments, if you go back and look at our structures and you guys see, we couldn't thank our staff enough. And I do want to make a point that even though we have 5 departments, we are limited in staff. So they do a lot. We got the city manager department, finance department, community development department, public works department, and park and recreation department. City manager department, some of their things that they're working on right now. Transient rental ordinance, telecommunication facility ordinance, developing new website, the budget that we always have to approve every year, update tree trimming ordinance, city attorney's RFP, potential affordable housing discussion. Finance department, balancing lighting funding, funding mechanism for retiree benefits, RDA loan interest collection, long-term property management plan, Libby Bowl pledge collection. Community development department, neighborhood planning projects, RFP on contract building inspection, code compliance, vacant building enforcement, second unit guidelines, update director's exceptions, cultural resources, zoning conformity procedures, possible solar light or solar height limit guidelines, possible water-wise landscape guidelines. A lot of stuff. Public Works Department. 1 million road overlay, including complete street design concept, street sweeping demonstration program, museum, city hall, roofing award, Libby Park play equipment replacement award, Sarasota Park picnic shade structure project, cemetery master plan, pedestrian and bicycle crossing improvement. If you notice throughout my presentations, there's some overlap of working with certain commissions and ad hoc committee and certain departments. For example, here, if you look at the complete streets, They're working on pedestrian bicycle crossing. They work with that director in order to get things done. The Livy Park and the Zarazoti Park projects, they work with the Park and Recreation Commission to make sure that we're doing the right things for our community. Park and Recreation Commission, they're working on the skate park lighting, BMX alternatives, Sarasota master planning, Libby Ballpark playground, equipment selection. And I just want to click on their website, and I want to give kudos to Allison. She is a staff in the recreation department that decided they needed to update their website. And they've done a fabulous job making the overlay, making tabs are interactive. I mean, you go to sports, adult sports, and you could click on it, and it could take you to where they have it. It's really interactive. The schedule Sunday, you could look at it online. There's tabs where you could get involved, volunteer opportunity. There's contact information. They're not afraid to post other organizations that provide recreation services. And here it is. It's another example that department decided to do in-house upgrade. And I personally like the fact that they're in social media, because I think that this could be a mechanism to really do public outreach and inform our public, hey, we have this going on. Come look at our web page. And I'm really impressed by the way they just took ownership of their website just to update. Just like the Arts Commission, very interactive website. Before I go on to agencies that we're associated with, does anybody have any comments on our departments, our projects? Anybody in the public? No?
I'm going to have a short comment.
Yes, Mr.
Your presentation just really drives home to me. This city doesn't operate without people committing themselves for no compensation, volunteers, dedicated citizens, vitally interested. This city doesn't operate without a lot of participation. You look at that list and you look at our staff, it doesn't happen without that dedication. And I think just a couple comments along those lines. That's what makes as much coordination as possible, a goal. Between commissions, boards, acting as advisors to council, working with staff. We've had instances in the past few years where that coordination broke down. And it consumes an enormous amount of time, which we have a great shortage of because we have so many things we want to do, and in a small city with a small staff, and the core of volunteers is so vital. And so I would just like to say a couple things. I would hope that we can really try to be as constructive as we can in terms of interaction, once or twice a year meetings between commissions and council to kind of thresh out issues and really try to keep that coordination. And if there's issues that we need to discuss, get them discussed and work them out. And then also, I want to reiterate a caution, and that is for us as a council, it's easy to say, staff, go research something, go give us a recommendation. There isn't much staff. We lay things on again and again and again and again, and it becomes dysfunctional. And I'm certainly, as a council person, going to be very, very, this presentation only drives that home point even more. We've got to be cautious about how we, use staff time and make demands on staff. And also, when we take on projects like the neighborhood planning, the sergeant planning, we're talking about, I noticed, the city count, most of the work will be undertaking during the first half of 2015. We know it's going to be very demanding of staff. We have on top of that all these other projects. We've got to be careful that we don't try to load up so much, get so ambitious that you end up not having quality outcomes. And I just want to that's my little cautionary speech. I would hope that if staff finds itself unable to hold to this first half of 2015, don't don't feel like you've got to drop other things that might even be more important. Come to council, keep us informed. We got to readjust that timetable. Let's be realistic.
Appreciate those comments, and you're definitely right. Anybody else? Comments? No? I'm going to move on to agencies that we are, pardon me. No.
I just want to say one thing.
Can you put it on the mic?
I'm sorry. Well, I have a loud voice, but with dedication comes sacrifice. And I think that's important too, is when I look at the hours when I sat in the Recreation and Parks Commission and all the hours that Steve put in, that's not just dedication, that's sacrifice, because every minute and every moment that he's spending with us, it's taken away from other things that he could be doing. And you can't have one without the other.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you. I do want to move on to our agencies that we're associated with. Now, this is a long list that we sit on boards, and it is vital that we find a way, I think, to just include us or update ourselves. For example, Southern California Association of Government, SCAG. Huge impact on in terms of our arena in our housing element. And going through those meetings, being active, I think that's just something that we need to really pay attention to. I mean, all these meetings have, all these boards that we sit on definitely have an impact on our community. The sanitary district is on there. I mean, the budget and community, it just goes on and on about how, and looking and seeing if this is too much for our council, and going back to what Mr. Daddy had mentioned beforehand, if we see appropriate for somebody on our other commissions or boards to sit as liaison, we really need to take that into serious consideration. Another possible one that I added there was the school district. Very interested in see if we could create some type of partnership with them. I think it's vital for us. And just on top of that is working with them. No agency is bigger than other. We're one that we need to start working with some of these. OBGMA is a perfect example. Working with them, they're experts at what they do. We need to support them in one way and do our due diligence and work with them. So I'm not going to touch on, I could go and actually provide a different slide. And I think that's what our former mayor, council member Smith was talking about. She's not even going to go into this because it just goes on and on and on about what they do and how it could impact our community. And a side note, I just want to make sure that we take into consideration when we're talking about some of these policies that are ongoing or projects that are at our table. Second unit guidelines. We've heard mentioned many times connection with the Ojai Sanitary District, developing those. The Buildings Appeals Board have done a fabulous job, and also the Planning Commission. And I keep referring to our commissioners because they all do a really good job. Affordable housing, that's been on our table too. We have to deal with that. Neighborhood planning project with this huge, we have to see how we're going to manage all that. Other policy, group homes, director's exemption, cultural resources, transient rentals. Issues that have brought up to my attention by different people: code enforcement, zoning conformity procedures, planning department, evaluation surveys. I think one of our vital issues that we could address in our website is public outreach options. I just think that we need to do a better job in reaching out to our constituents. Reviewing municipal code could be other issues. Policies and procedures, ex parte disclosures, checklist for fence application. Could be as simple as those things when dealing with policies and procedures. Emergency disaster programs. OBGMA with their whole their mandate turning into I forget the right name of the entity that they're trying to shift to, but that's another issue that we need to be involved in. Roadmap to sustainability. I hear about environmental issues, and we do have a roadmap that we do not address. In my opinion, we should add energy to it. Where it sits on our priority list, I don't know. Who's willing to direct that? It's up in the air. Lighting ordinance compliance, solar program update, just updates, reports from council members, reports on other agencies. More than anything, I'm offering ways to get it resolved. I'm really up to thinking outside the box, utilizing our commissions, working with them, knowing what their priorities are, their organization, and making sure that we stay on, that we're focused, getting stuff done and not just all over the place. Ad hoc committees, task forces, a possible other way of dealing with certain projects that I mentioned earlier. In-house body, what I mean with that is what's easy to do now and how we could fix certain issues without having it post on our agenda. What's easy to facilitate versus a body. When is it appropriate to go through the planning commission? When is it appropriate to go through our commission? Technology, apps. My generation is really into apps. I happen to be one of the exception that's not, but I see value to it. More meetings, less items could be another option. I'm open to any suggestion from our council, from our public, on what to focus on first. We have a number of issues that we need to address, and it's really important. And maybe we need to sit on it for another meeting and present it and come up with ideas. And I'm not just talking about council members. I'm talking about people in the community, our commissions. I really want this to be interactive. I want there to be, and I think as mayor, as council members, it is our duty to facilitate these items and make sure that they're getting done. And more than anything, not only following our flow chart, setting priorities, but putting it in our calendar. And I just don't mean having an item that says city council meetings and clicking on it and seeing nothing, but actually setting a date in a way that we could post information. I know it's very ambitious, and it's something that has been part of our process, but I think it's time to start doing that. Start to post information on all these items, and go to February. If we know we can't get to, let's just take an issue that's to group homes until March. Let's post it on there and let's get something going. And maybe we do have a group of commissioners. We have a group of interested people in the public that facilitate with us on getting that item accomplished. So I'm proposing this to our council, to our public, people that are viewing it from home. I just want to make sure that we are getting stuff done. And with that, I conclude my presentation, but really not, because I really want to see if there's suggestions, if people are really ready to start working on priority. I'm ready to start, oops, that's not what I wanted. I'm ready to start working on it and making sure we set priorities up and possibly start arranging them. But I don't know, I'm leaving that up to council, up to the public, and I'm open for any suggestions. Anybody from the council have questions? Yes,
Savara, on the webpage you had posting the agenda. Is there a comment section where if the public went online and saw something that was posted, that they might have the opportunity just to make a...
on our website?
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't think there is, but let me just go there.
Not, Councilmember Haney, not currently, but we're working on that with the update.
Yeah. So there is a comment on, that you could post if you have questions or suggestions that have to do with our website. There is on the homepage, there is a section online form where you could submit your requests on what you want the new website to look at.
And there's a general comment form.
Right, but that's for the website development.
Correct.
Yeah, website development.
I guess what I'm saying is after the website is developed, to have a interactive aspect to it as part of the web design, and that's what I heard Rhonda said is going to happen.
And then we could possibly start, see, and this is what I mean, in-house versus body. If we could do this in-house and have our website update. Is it typing? It's supposed to type here. Having a technical glitch here. Oh, it's not typing. Well, anyways, I was hoping that we could actually put some items on here tonight. But with that, that's a good question, is when we do update, what could we include on that website? How could we make it interactive? Any other comments on, or we could go on to see what priorities. Is there any desire to tackle some of our priorities that I listed, or brainstorming? I'll pull that up. Ongoing policies. I think we kind of have an idea of the second, or of the neighborhood planning project on our agenda, on our staff report. We do have dates. And these are all suggested, so we can move them. I don't know if we want to come back to next meeting and have a little bit of time to really digest, or if we have some suggestion. Any suggestion from the public? Yes, ma'am. If you don't mind coming up and speaking, because people out on TV can't hear you.
My name is Linda Stiles, and I live at 919 East Matilaha. You were asking about the website, and maybe the homeowners, the citizens, have suggestions about priorities, and if they could put that on the website so you could see what we think, maybe that would be helpful.
Great. Rhonda, you writing this down? Yes. Okay, thank you. And you, Mr. Daddy? I saw you.
Well, that was one of them. Encinitas has an interactive website, and it really makes sense that when there's something that comes up that people get to comment, plus you get to take a look at the other comments. It's just foolish for people to, go ahead and make the same suggestion 20 times when you don't know what they're making. So it really needs to be interactive. There's about 90 cities that have this out of the 474 cities in California already. So this is something we can do. We can take a look and see what the calendar is going to be. We have a rolling calendar. We can see where we are in the process, what the dates are going to be, and then we can make suggestions. And I think a lot of these suggestions are things that we can try to get on future calendars. As to what Mr. Foster said, we have certain processes. If you're going to put a utility shed, you have to go through this gruesome format. And we have been asking out in citizen land for us to go back through the ordinances, the resolutions, the codes, the laws that we've adopted, dump a bunch of these things and modify some, make some changes so they actually fit today's society. I mean, we have hazardous areas with hedge heights at intersections, down Ojai Avenue. We need to revise some things. I'm not talking about making landmark changes, but I'm talking about those common, easy things that are everyday nuisances and everyday interference. I would like to see on the interactive website, not to rub any salt in any wound, but if somebody comes in with a project, like the 4-story Holiday Inn where Chaparral used to be, as soon as we get an application or we get an inquiry, that stuff should be on the website so that people can take a look at that. And we have proposed all kinds of things, but the people just don't know what's there. Then all of a sudden they say, hey, they're building this thing, and then everybody comes storming in here and goes, why weren't we notified? Well, if we had an application 1 year ago, it sits and it goes through this big process for a year, and unbeknownst to the community, it finally comes out of the rabbit hole at the end of the tunnel. And then everybody's down here complaining like, why didn't you tell us? And how long's this been going on? And why didn't we know where it is? So I'd like to see all the permits and all the other things come up, all the applications, the inquiries, and get different things. I mean, I would like to see the community to be able to weigh in on these things that you see where there's a little contention, where all of a sudden we're talking about directors' decisions applied and exceeding, and where those things go. I think it would be healthy for the council to be able to see the community at large, what their feelings and what their answers and their attitudes are. And you can monitor those things and see where they are. So I think it'd be real healthy. Thank you.
Yes.
I was just going to say, when you clicked on the calendar item and it takes you to the bridge to nowhere, it just gives the time and date of the meeting. If you had a synopsis of the agenda, and then you had a posting area where the public and you guys and staff could post, hey, you know, I had a question about this. It might just be a clarification item that somebody could just go, yeah, that was going to be this way, and it just gets the information out quick. People have questions, and it's just the flow of information is going to make your jobs easier, going to save everybody time.
Great suggestions.
And Mayor Laura?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
The technology, the apps and the technology is just tremendous. So what was discussed a minute ago is, what are we going to do when we have a special meeting and a conflict? We should be web streaming anyhow. We have an awful lot of people that don't have access to Time Warner. They don't use Time Warner. They're not able to watch this tonight. And it's delayed on the computer. We need to get it together and go and start doing web streaming and make it live. So virtually everybody in the community has access real time. So that's another one of those couple of things that, you know, we need to see what we can do. Thank you.
I was just going to say, if you have a video conflict of two meetings, you can live stream the second priority meeting just to YouTube. Just live stream it. That way you're taking advantage.
Yeah, you kind of read my mind there on the issue of web streaming, because not everybody subscribes to Time Warner. Maybe they have satellite. I think that's an excellent point, but backing up just a little bit, and it's part of the larger picture that's part of, far more people watch these meetings on Channel 10, are clicking on clicking on the website, than come here. And so we can close the loop. That's what you're talking about, Mayor Lara, I think. You're talking about closing the loop, where you can access watching what's going on without being here, and you need to be able to get your input into what you feel about what's going on here without being here. And I think if we can close that loop, just to summarize it, and with what Wanda's working on, I think we would be well served.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Fletcher, is there any particular issues on posting permit applications? Is there any privacy issues with regard to?
No.
No?
No.
So,
In fact, I was going to say that there's a couple of in technology, there's always a cost issue. The city of Newport Beach actually has permit applications on a layer of their GIS is available public. You can go to your neighborhood and zoom in. It's Newport Beach. Zoom in and see what building permit applications are in your neighborhood, what design review, conditional use permits, and all of that. A very lower tech but very effective means of letting folks know something's coming up. You'll see in a lot of communities is a requirement to post the property with not a terribly expensive sign, not terribly large, of course, depending on what the project is, but we'll at an early stage in the application process for certain, not building permits, but certain other types of like design review permits, that a sign gets posted up to this, development proposal pending, application number, type of just, second story addition, and then a project number. So folks as you're out walking the dog, you wonder what's going on in that property. There's information, and it's the beginning of it's somewhere earlier in the entitlement process, not at the public hearing stage. There'll still be public hearing notices, of course, but there are low tech and high tech means of just letting the world know that there are certain types of development proposals pending. But there's no privacy.
Yeah.
There's certain things we don't. You may not want to release, but in terms of the fact an application has been filed is absolutely a matter of public record.
Okay. I think it's really important that happened at the earliest stage possible, to tell you the truth. I think that would solve a lot of the problems that we have when people all of a sudden say, I had no idea that was taking place, including myself. I think it would be really helpful.
Yeah, I love the idea of a physical posting as well as a virtual posting. And that would, at the earliest possible stage, in any kind of entitlement granting, whether it's ministerial or by public process, would make a lot of sense.
Mr. Mayor, I saw that something about it's going to take 6 months to do this website. Because I thought it said June.
It says June in the staff report, but
Right.
actually, I hope to have it completed by March.
Okay, that makes
So the
much a lot more
contract with
sense.
Webity was for 3 months.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm much more comfortable than that. I thought 6 months seemed a bit long.
Yes, Chief, and then,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, distinguished members of council, Norm Plott, Fire Chief. One other suggestion I might make is a link to the fire department webpage. That way it'd be on the very front when you put on the city, and if you want to contact the fire department or find out, where the sirens are going in town, you could actually click on the city webpage. It would take you to the fire department link. And, potentially with our colleagues in the Sheriff's Department as well, I see they have the VC alert on there. But then that way, the city of Ojai is a one-stop shop for emergency notifications. Could be our annual weed abatement program or different campaigns that the fire department's involved in as well.
Chief, could that link include the GIS integration, for example, where if someone, basically notification is there's an emergency of some sort, people could then see where it is physically?
Yeah, presently on the active incidents, you actually that does come up. It tells the type of call. It doesn't give the address, but general area.
That's what I'm saying, the general area.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
for example, the power line that was down on Main.
Yeah, you could access.
That could be, something that anyone would be able to with that link, identify where that problem was.
Yeah, it does. I believe when you click on it, it'll take you to a map that shows you whereabout it is in the city.
It's a great idea.
Well, also it's interactive, so also if someone does see a problem or a concern, they can actually use that as well as 911.
Yeah.
So there's more than one opportunity.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we do have comments that go to what we call the webmaster, and the webmaster parts those out to the department that would be, whether it's a fire prevention issue, it would go to the fire prevention. If it's an operation issue, it goes to operations. So the webmaster does take those comments on our webpage. So if somebody had a question about weed abatement or that sort of thing, there is access there.
Joel? Yeah, I was just going to say, when you do anything that's blog related, and I think that's what we're talking about, allowing people to comment, say on real time, what's in the back of everybody's head is, are we going to get a bunch of wackos making comments, and who's going to monitor that? But I don't think you have to worry too much about that, because the level of information tends to rise. You have some articulate people on this side and that side, but it's gonna blow all that out, and I don't think you're gonna have to worry about it. But if you can keep it simple and have one destination for the information, and there's some systems out there that are gonna do that, and then you got it. So.
Anybody else from public? No? Council, any questions, suggestions, any direction that we want to go to this?
Mr. Clark, do we need to look at budgeting for increased server capacity? Do we have some headroom for these kinds of expansions?
Well, I think it's something that we have to look at more closely. One of the problems that we ran across, and I almost hate to mention it, when we talk to other cities, is the amount of staffing on the back end of some of these things. So it seems like it's all technology, but really there's a person
Right.
behind it. For example, we looked at Mr. Fletcher's map. It turns out Newport Beach has a 21-person IT department.
Oh, God.
And they have GIS, which we don't have. So I think probably what we're talking about is going step by step. You know, we're working on a project to improve what we have, and then I think we have some great ideas for additional steps, but we'll have to look at what it takes to implement them.
I think a
Mr. Mayor?
first step is it is going to be important to update that website and then possibly update all our department website. The recreation just took a month itself to really be interactive. I think that is that we could include some of these items that I have on there with just public outreach options, putting them out there and getting publics involved. I think that's a realistic goal.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember.
I just redid our website and our business, and yeah, it's one thing building the website. It's the next thing keeping it churning.
Yeah.
And that is a tremendous amount of time. A lot of people have to know HTML. It's like a foreign language. And so maybe there's a possibility for an internship with something like this. Some sort of participation on that level to get an intern in to help keep up the website, because we don't have it in the budget for somebody on IT like that has that sort of ability. And it seems there's got to be some place we can reach out to do that.
And I agree. I definitely agree. Maybe we should offer an internship, but I also think that it is a different language. And I spoke to my sister does website design and does all that stuff. And if we get the right person in the department to do it, just like we did the Park and Recreation Department that James set up, they updated themselves, and it's very simple. If we train somebody to do so, I think that we could be, that could be accomplished.
Is the time there, though? That's the question we need to get from staff. Yeah, somebody can be trained and they can do it, but really, how much time in a day does that take? I know for myself now, I'm spending 3 and 4 hours a day on website management, and I've got a factory to run, I've got employees, I've got other things that I have to do, I have bids, all this other stuff that I have to do. So, yeah, we can do it, but the question is the staff time there? And if it's not there, I think we need to have staff let us know whether it really exists, if the time does exist, and if it doesn't exist, potentially explore the idea of an intern coming in and doing it.
Sorry to interrupt, but why don't you ask Ojai Unified if they have a city government class? They could give class credit for somebody that can at least do data input, right?
Even VC.
They don't have to make decisions, it's just data inut, you know?
Ventura College, that's a great suggestion. Yeah.
I mean,
You know, this is a citywide issue. It seems to me if you just took a percentage of each of the department's budgets, and maybe we start with the city manager. No, I'm joking. No, but it's all a percentage, you know that, and I'm a fan I'm a fan of solutions, and I just think that you know, if we can all think of how not to do it, the most important thing is to think about how we can do it, and what is it going to take to achieve what our goal is, and how are we going to go about it. So. I remember when I bought my house, our accountant said, "Stop thinking about how you can't and start thinking about how you can." And so again, I think that's something as a council that we could look at once we finalize some of these goals and objectives, and actually look at how can we put some dollar signs to it to actually make it work.
Council members, Mayor Laura,
Yes.
I would like to mention that when we discussed the updates to the website, we also discussed social media. At the time, we budgeted money to update the website, so we hope to have that done, like I said, by the end of March. And then I'd like to come back with the council about social media, because that is a way of the future. It's just we couldn't do everything at once because of limited staff. So I would just like to put that off until maybe bring it back in April or May and discuss, because I just don't want to throw something up there like a blog or something without researching it and doing it right, and then having the community complain, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
no, you're definitely
So
right.
staff is aware of it and working on it.
You know, Mayor, another aspect of this is the other agencies that we deal with, like when I was at the sanitation district today. You know, they're gonna have a big issue coming up in how they're gonna reline or upgrade the sewer system in the community. One of the suggestions I made is for them to actually approach each of the entities, the city of Ojai, and tap into our website and tap into the fact that we can disseminate and provide as much information that's available from these agencies that impact us. And it's sanitation district, the OBGMA. I mean, there's a lot of agencies that should have interactive access with us. Like we talked to school board, but there's a lot of things that we could do together.
Yeah, I agree. But we just have to identify those and have a plan and set time frame, a realistic time frame, I think. So it is a lot of information to capture, and I think that we do need to be strategic in prioritizing these projects. But again, there's some that are being worked on, are different departments, different commissions. Do we want to be more active? I think that we should possibly set dates on our website regarding those issues and where the next meeting's happening. Does the council have any desire of where they want to start or how they want to approach our priorities? Yes, Councilmember Wyrick.
I think we maybe ought to leave it at focusing on this process, because I think that's part of the point. We want to get input on priorities from other than what's in this room right now. And I think that's the important thing to focus on. That's the priority that I think we ought to come away with, is how do we broaden getting the input about setting priorities and not keep it just in this room. Broaden out. I think that's where I'd like to leave it, rather than trying to move to priorities right now. Let's open up the process of getting input as to what our priorities ought to be.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We
Councilmember.
already have a ton of priorities already on the books.
Exactly.
So to add more on top of that right now is probably counterproductive. I don't want to say that I don't want to hear potential new priorities, but I think we need to take the ones we have, work through those, and then put on the back burner the other ones, unless there's something burning issue that
And I'm
we need to bring
completely
forward.
agreeing with you. I'm just saying, I think the opening up the process as to how to prioritize what we already have
Absolutely.
is needed, and we need to do more, get that input from more than what's here right now in this room. You know, that's part of opening up to the community, getting better efficient and more effective at getting input from the community on setting those priorities.
How long do we give the opportunity for people to say what priority order they want to put things in? Because we have staff that has a limited amount of time, and if we delay stuff.
The website comes in, I
Yeah,
think.
because
Yeah.
we don't want to delay
No.
stuff.
And the website's not going to be done till March. So do we have that time between then to really
Yeah.
prioritize? And that's my dilemma. I'm not
See,
saying.
that's our responsibility.
Yeah. And that's, I think we already have certain projects that is clearly
Already on-
under our department. But I guess the question that I'm asking is, are any of those issues, could we be more interactive? Could we set a different level of engagement in terms of getting them through, for example, the transient rentals? They've been on our books for quite a while. I don't know. I mean, I remember when I started getting into politics 4 years ago, it was on there. And it's still barely going to be on our agenda. Do we need to prioritize in a way that we could follow through? Do we need to put dates? Do we need to involve our planning commissioners? Do we need to involve certain agencies in our community to really drive that? Because we are limited in staff. We are definitely limited in staff. but
May
we
I
gotta-
say?
Yes.
I've been waiting. Well, Susan Francina, asked her when she first came forward with a bike plan, which is / complete streets. That was like 15 years ago. I ran on getting bike paths done. That's going on 7 years. So, yeah, you're right. Things get stuck in committee, so to speak. So, yeah, maybe at this point we need to have drop dead dates. Say, okay, you know, it is time to get complete streets out of committee and start taking direct action. And when are we going to do that? You're right. But right now, we have the neighborhood planning thing going. To me, that's on the front burner. That and
Great. Why not start there? Why not just start making concrete dates of agendizing in our next agenda? How do we want to direct staff to deal with that issue? Or at least if we not direct them, what's our process that we want to follow?
Or ask them how long they think that they really realistically need to complete something as well.
Yeah. And it is a collaboration. You're absolutely right. All those questions are valid, and they do have a timeline here. I'm just putting it out there. How could we think outside the box and actually have it get done when it's on our timeline, making
You
sure
sound like
that
a businessman. We got to get this job done. I'm with you. You know, you have all this stuff on the books, and it just lags and it lags and it lags, and it gets very frustrating. You know, we do need to keep it moving. And how do we do that?
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know the answer to that.
Councilmember Haney.
Well, I think, again, by having an interactive website and having these items itemized and posted, I think the citizens are going to keep us online and keep us on task. I wasn't quite sure how we were going to do this tonight. So I thought we each were coming in with our own set of goals and things of that. So instead of reading my 15, I'm just going to read one that I haven't seen anywhere in the past or the future, but water is our biggest concern in this valley. We can plan and review and dictate how we're going to build a home or what we're going to do with a lot, but the reality is water's going to take you to that, and water's going to be the biggest part of it. And I don't see it listed anywhere in any of our goals as to what we're going to do or how we're going to deal with the continued drought.
And I think that I definitely agree with you. And going back to other issues, I had put in OBGMA as other issues because we're on that board, and we're helping to transition that agency into a more active participant in the community that deals with water. So,
well, what I did here is I listed water, and then I listed a couple of the things that I see. One is the future water conditions, the Casitas water rationing, which is huge and could be upcoming. The continual removal of Golden State water, just getting them out of us, out, and continue with that. We got to continue with the rate case battle. We just can't put things like that on the back burner. They need to be discussed, not at every meeting, but they need to be discussed. Again, this website would keep all of this interactive and keep everyone up to date as to where we are, what we're doing, and how we're doing it. And then again, that status, and I agree with you on the Ojai Basin Ground Management Agency. We passed that ordinance in December, and it's been a month. What do we know? Our well moratorium. What have we received from OBGMA regarding what they're doing, where they are in the process, and where we are? Those are things that we need to stay abreast of in the water aspect of this.
And I agree, and probably moving that website would help tremendously with those issues, just to have follow-up.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I know, Councilmember
I'm yucky
Cloud.
tonight, all right. Well, the water question is a really important one, because what do we and what do we not have any authority over? That's a lot of it. The Ojai Basin Groundwater Management Agency is the agency that manages the groundwater in this valley. We don't. We have a representative there. And I, as a representative on the subcommittee that is helping finish the sustainability plan that will be submitted to the state, which is required before we can consider removing the well moratorium. So that's the active participation there. But as far as the PUC hearings, yes, we can participate in that. But there are, I just don't know how much power we have
Well,
over
I'm-
that. And I think that's worthy of discussion.
Well, I agree with what you said, and I'm not saying that we do have power over those agencies. What we do have is we have a voice, and we are the voice to the community. And we need to keep the community up to date as to what you just talked about in regards to where they are and what they're doing. That's all I'm trying to say with that. We're not going to control that agency, but we need to be a part of it, and we need to share this information as soon as we can and as often as we can.
And that's, I feel that we could move along with working with different agencies. I just want to pull ourselves back into our priorities and see if we have really any desire to put any of these on our agenda soon, whether it be just as an update, as a way that we could brainstorm to make sure that that item is being dealt with, like the neighborhood planning. We know it's in process. How are we going to make sure that that gets done? The second unit guidelines has been a hot issue, and that has to also do with the Ojai Sanitary District. Do we need to revisit that item and put it on the agenda so we could flush it out more and get public input? Are some of these items a priority to us and offer the public for more input? That's what, I guess that's more where I was hoping we could get more clarity of a direction, because if we wait for the website till March, it's going to be a ways, and we're losing 2.5 months of time. So yes, Rhonda.
I make a suggestion is tomorrow I was going to meet with the city manager and really focus on, I mean, you will see improvements on the website over the next few weeks. It's just the contract's completed, so the whole project will be complete by the end of March, but maybe there's something I can work with Webity right now to get something going, because I do want to get public input. And one of the suggestions I might make is we provide updates on these projects. So like whichever department would put something up there and say, this is where we are in neighborhood planning. And then the council, the community could see and say, oh, well, maybe we need to agendize that and discuss it. Or if they're satisfied with what we put up there, at least that they're in the loop. So I might suggest doing that over the next couple weeks, over the next month, and then we revisit this goal, the priority list.
Is that something that council or the public wish to do? Good approach?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, Mr. Daddy.
I've talked to Rhonda a number of times and given her a number of suggestions. What I would suggest is that you write a letter to the public, and you write an editorial, and you let the public know that we're in the process of coming up with an interactive website. And invite, pick one day, couple hours somewhere, invite all those people with tech savvy and all this knowledge and all this understanding, where they say, you know, you can put this YouTube and you can stream this, you can do that. Invite them to come, and maybe we can get the Webity people.
Yes.
And then maybe if we need to, what you can do is you can just Skype so they don't come down.
Yes.
And
I
so
was
you
gonna
just,
suggest that.
plug it in, Skype it, throw it up there, and then you can have an interactive long distance, and then we can get these masters of the webs, all these people we have that are uber smart, to talk to them and discuss ideas about some of the things we need. And I think that will shortcut the process tremendously, and then we don't have to go for meeting after meeting after meeting. And I'm not going to be in any of those meetings because I'm not able to understand that level of immersion in that. But I would hope that you would do that soon.
Great ideas.
Yes.
One more thing. I was just going to say, all the electronics, the gizmos, we all got them, websites. The information I get from the city is usually from Steve in a form of a press release. I think I got something on Mr. Fletcher's job change, and I can see Rob's got his name on it. So it goes through you, the finance director. I'll get Ojai Day. So if you just think of it in terms of you're doing press releases, whether they're electronic or whatever, the ones I see are straight, informative, boom, boom, boom. And I think you're doing what you've always done. It's just if you increase that, do it electronically as well. He's the man. So When
Yeah,
I hear from you guys, well,
let's just give Steve
you're just
something
doing
else to
what
do.
Rob instructs you to do, which I assume it's been
No,
checked over.
actually, that we
It's
have
just
drafted.
information.
I have drafted a press release with Amber Young's help, and Steve
Yeah.
just hasn't had a chance to review it, but we will get on that, huh, Steve?
And as far as
Yeah.
these, second unit guidelines, you click on that, it takes you to somewhere, and you see at the very top, the latest whatever that's going on with that issue. That's.
Right.
And
Great ideas,
So,
thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
could I just make a comment? I know sometimes we get frustrated and sometimes we don't know where projects are, but we have really accomplished a lot over the past few years, and I don't think we should forget that. First of all, the biggest priority of the city council has been infrastructure. We've had $1 million paving project last year. We're going to have another $1 million paving project next year. That's a huge accomplishment. We had stalled projects. The bus shelters were stalled. The road extension over by the club was stalled. Sorry, yes, the roof jobs, the museum. So a lot of those things have been accomplished. There's been a new ordinance takes at least 6 months, but so far we haven't been able to do it in 6 months. But we've done the dark sky ordinance, the water-wise ordinance, the plastic bag ordinance, the height ordinance, the styrofoam ordinance. I mean, that is a lot of work for a small staff. So many of the projects that you have listed there are in process and are about to pop. We're just about to adopt the telecommunication facility ordinance. The second unit guidelines have already been reviewed by the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals, and that's coming to the City Council next week, I think. The neighborhood planning project I can give you guys an update on, but we've had a kickoff meeting, we're getting that going. So I know that there's a lot of things that we want to do, but I think we also need to keep in mind that we have accomplished a lot and we are continuing to accomplish a lot.
And that's a point well taken, and I definitely agree. There's a lot that we have that.
I don't mean to take this over, but that's a really good point, and you said it too, and I'm not tooting my own horn, but years ago I was on the smallest student newspaper in the state at the community college level in the early 80s. There were 106 in the state. And I can tell you we had the smallest staff. We kicked ass. We beat Pierce College, which was the biggest staff. So the reason we did it was we had a staff that just clicked. It's like a rock band. You just click. And hopefully you guys get the chemistry down to where you click with the public, you click with yourselves, and that's the only way to do it, because when things had to be done, there was nobody to call to do it. And it's like exactly what you said. You don't just go dump it on staff because they're limited. You just do it. And you don't waste time, you just do it.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask Mr. Clark, I feel like we've kind of gotten off some sort of track here. This agenda item is for goal setting. And what we have are goals that we're working on right now. And what I would like to know is how much longer will those take, and how many more goals could you realistically take on in the next how many months? And then we need to decide what those are. And I think we already have a list of several. I'm all for public outreach, but we have a leadership role here, and we're intimately involved with all of this right now. I'm not saying I don't want to hear from the public, but we do have an obligation to make, at some point, we have to make decisions. And I'm ready to do that because we have a lot of things already very clear here about what we need to do, and through other public processes have heard from the public already what they feel needs to be done. So I would like to get a sense from you what you feel over the next 6 months you can realistically do. What more could you add realistically?
So the goals that we talked about this time last year are the 19 goals that are on that chart that you have. I told you when we adopted the budget that I thought realistically we could get those done during the budget year, and I still think that. There may be one or two exceptions where priorities have changed or whatever. And in addition, we've added in a few other things that have come up.
Adding more things.
So I really think what we're talking about is what do we want to do next budget year? And the planning for next budget year really starts now. We start developing the budget next month. And you have hearings on it starting in May. So the more information we get as we're developing the budget, the more we're able to fit those things into the budget. Otherwise, a budget's all put together, and then you have to start over from scratch because the priorities have changed. So I think getting input during the next 2 or 3 months before we start rolling out the budget would be good timing.
Okay.
And I do agree that we do have set goals and we do have set priorities and set, again, but I guess what I am concerned is that we're all in sync. To commission, to staff, do we need to do more to make sure that we're all on the same page? Example, the Historic Preservation Commission. If you look at their projects and what they want to do, is that going to take staff time? Is that going to delay what our priorities are?
That's right.
Is that, so again, do we need to direct staff in another way to make sure that we don't push an issue that is hot like the transient rentals down months? Is there something that we could aid staff with our commissions? And that's what I want to just think and challenge. And maybe we don't have the answer right now. I think staff does a tremendous job with the amount of physical bodies they have to accomplish, but there's just so much they could do. And frankly, a department that is, I feel overwhelmed, is the community development department. Kathleen is an amazing individual, very smart and intellectual, but there's only so much that she could do. As a council, if you look at her plate, is there stuff that we think we could tell Rob and include some people that are possible extras that are willing to give their time to that subject and work with us? I guess that's where I'm coming. I'm not trying to reinvent no new policies, no new issue. I really am not. I see that we're already overwhelmed, but I feel like we're doing a good job. I'm always looking for ways to improve, to make things better. I heard earlier one of the first comments from public communications is that he was feeling a change. I necessarily didn't take that as a change like in our whole structure, but just improvements. Willing to think outside the box and willing to do things like the website. So that's all I'm saying. I don't know if there's a particular issue that we can pinpoint right now, looking at all our commissions, looking at all our policies, and that there's some way that we could assist our staff with. I don't know if we want to table it, if we want to get some public output, if you want me to write a letter, a press release, I could do that. I'm more than happy to spend my day to learn how to do that because I care for this community. I want to make sure that we proceed and we're not behind. I'm more than happy to do that and facilitate that and take that on. I just want to make sure that we're thinking outside the box to really make sure that our staff is being assisted, or that Rob or Joe Fletcher feel like we're giving them support, because we are definitely giving more than enough to do. I definitely agree. So I don't know if it's a desire. Anybody have any more comments? Mr. Quillisi?
Thank you, Mayor. I would suggest that while we're all waiting for the interactive website to come up and let the community comment on as many things as we hope they will, that in the meantime, you look at the level of interest that's here in the community now about a number of these things. I mean, we had a full room of people that, under the wrong conditions might have all gone over the top of this speaker's dais here and attacked somebody if things went wrong. There's a great deal of interest here in the community in a lot of these things. You don't have to do it all yourselves. You don't have to direct staff to do it all themselves. I would suggest a couple of things. One, gathering information. Mr. Wyrick spoke earlier of making sure that we have the information that we need to make good decisions, I think. And that would include appointing people on the council or not on the council as liaisons to this long list of agencies that you had before. Gauge the public interest in doing those things. I'm interested, for example. And start getting more reports into the city council about these things. You can post them on the website, all of that stuff, and contribute to the community's understanding of all these various forces and effects that influence the policies that you need to establish on behalf of the community. So I would appoint some more liaisons on the council or off the council. I'm suggesting off because there's just not nearly enough of you people. And, excuse me, and then get reports at every council meeting on what's going on and post them on the website.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes,
I have a
please.
green card.
Oh, Mr. Miley.
Let's give Bill a couple extra.
Let's turn it off. Bill Miley on Signal Street. I just want to remind everybody that you were elected by the voters of Ojai to help run this city. And I think lots of good information needs to come from folks. I think the interactive website might be a really good idea. I think one of the most important things is to have applications for development, projects that are being proposed, be available so we can find out about them. If we had known about the AT&T tower when it was first presented, we wouldn't have had all this. If we'd known about what was going on North Signal Street back in 2012, we wouldn't be yelling in October of last year. And I did look at all of the things on the list for this agenda on your website, and I looked at the discretionary list of things that were where they had first come to the attention of the city. I think it's fair to say that the Ojai Valley Inn had their application in early November. And I didn't hear anybody say that. It's always in December. But I remember correctly, Mr. City Manager, that it was around November 8th when it was listed on your website that the Ojai Valley Inn had submitted their application. Is that correct? That sounds about right. Okay, just point of thing. Okay. I have 5 suggested priorities or goals that you might make priority listing someplace. So this is to make the job even more difficult. The first 3 I'm going to list were generated by the North Signal Street neighbors when we were actively involved in the 1105 issue at the top. So number 1, adding a design review requirement for all single-family zone parcels over 1 acre in size. And there are a bunch of those in the city still that haven't been developed. That would then generate a planning commission review and approval for development. Now, that's not our idea. Months ago, when we were meeting with Kathleen about North Signal, she told us that many cities have this as their way of managing large parcels within their city boundaries. And we like that idea. Okay, number 2, add to the building and zoning ordinances a statement requiring a permit for any building of a fence or wall. Any. Right now, you can build a fence or a wall. If it isn't a retaining wall and doesn't fall within the front part without telling the city or anybody. That doesn't seem right. We've had a number of problems with walls that have been started because they didn't think they needed a permit, and then it turned out they needed, or they were built in the wrong place. And we had one on Signal Street that ended up encroaching on the city, and they actually came to you, and you had to do something de novo. Okay. We believe that if that ordinance had been in place, that where all fences or walls had required a permit, a planner in this office would have been able to maybe influence the owner through the contractor that instead of a masonry wall on the north edge of our city, we would have had a stone wall or a river rock wall. Could have been still 6 feet, so you had privacy, but it would have looked different. But that didn't happen. But we do have a zoning ordinance that says masonry walls have to be reviewed and have to be modified so they don't look like a building. And the way I understand it, that was never applied. Nothing ever happened there. Okay. Number 3, this is more arcane. In the addition of language in the code section describing lot frontage on city streets, setting a minimum number of linear feet required to make it a legal frontage line. We had that problem up there. It was 8 feet here, 15 feet on an easement, but the city doesn't say what you had as a minimum for a flag lot. So Santa Barbara has a really good description of that. I would urge you to look at that. And I have a suggestion for follow-up compliance on development agreements that occur when a project is being approved. And an example of that didn't happen was where the Ojai Valley Inn had agreed to 10 years ago to develop 10 residential places for their employees. Well, in last Thursday's LA Times, there was a big article about LA City's failure to follow up on development agreements. And one city council member suggested that the city look to the LA County Department of Regional Planning. And they require a specific number of inspections to occur as part of the contract and development agreement. They put that into the project. And the developers pay for inspections that are scheduled over a period of time to make sure that development agreements are followed. I think that's a good idea. Pay for, so it doesn't cost us anything. And the last thing has to do with the Ojai Sanitary Districts, we've talked about this before, the illegal sewer connection remediation program that they have. And I want the city to become, I would like it to become proactive. Okay, so the sanitary district is continuing a program of lateral line inspections to reduce and prevent groundwater from entering the sanitary pipeline. So the line that comes from your house is leaking, folks, and when it rains, water goes in there, it goes to the plant, they have to process it, goes to the river instead of our basin. And they did a great project on Shady Lane to find out how much it's leaking and what it would take to seal it and the cost. Okay. So my understanding is that our city gets a list of residences within the city where the sanitary district has found, by looking at the laterals, that it's connected to the sewer line illegally. There's no permit. And there's a bunch of them, apparently. I've heard maybe 900. I don't know. So they contact the owner when they find that out, and they say it's illegal. You've got to either stop using it or you have to hook it up. It's about $14,000 or somewhere around there. So we get a list, I understand, every so many months of residents who have paid the $15,000, are now legally able to use the sewer, but have an unpermitted building. Right, Mr. City Manager? And I would like to see us, I understand about 10 of those, we may have about 60 now or so. I understand about 10 of those have been permitted, which is good. But I would like to see the city become much more proactive to get those dwelling units that now have legal sewer connections permitted as a building. And we know the sanitary district is moving pretty rapidly to inspect over the next few years all of the lines in Ojai, and they're going to find all of the illegal connections, and they're going to get a bunch of them connected, and we're going to have a job to get those permitted and up to code. So,
May I make a suggestion, Mr. Miley?
proactive, please. What?
I'm going to make a proactive suggestion.
Okay.
All right. You are illustrating eloquently why we've got to get going on some process things like the agenda item on getting our representatives from this council named to things like the Ojai Valley Sanitary District. In other words, you're talking about the kinds of things that properly functioning liaisons need to be accomplishing in terms of reporting back to this body as a whole, all right? And so what I'm going to urge is that it's 9:45, and that we consider doing something in service to what you are describing. Namely, maybe we close the discussion on goals right now and get on to something that does what you're talking about, rather than just talking about it.
Sure.
And that is, let's get to this agenda item before we run out of time tonight.
Yes, okay. My final statement is,
Okay.
I've been around for a long time, coming to a lot of these meetings, and I don't think the council in the past has given the city manager the proper direction to deal with an issue like I just described.
I agree.
But-
And I think
so that's why
part
we
of
elected
the,
you guys.
and part of the progress towards getting to that very goal is that we get straightened out on our liaisons and representatives, and
And
we
I
start getting the structure in place that we're talking about.
And I do want to bring this.
Because it's 9:45.
And I do want to bring this to a closure, but I did want to give Mr. Miley his time to explain his concerns. I do want to, and just to wrap up with all of this, I think that it's going to be crucial for us to at least bring up items that are pending right now, hence the second unit guidelines. Bring it to our agendas to update how they're proceeding, et cetera. And I do want to bring this up again, possibly in a next council meeting, to really get direction on how to utilize our commissions, because they have their own agenda and they use staff time. And we have to be sensitive to staff and see where there could be some connection, network, or some things that need to get done that we could save time in the overall scheme. So I want to make sure that anybody from the public that wants to give input on this, please give to us. And if it's the pleasure to the council to implement some of the ideas that we've had, that we bring it back to next council meeting to just make sure that we have follow through. And I'll steer that item myself. I'll make sure that I work with the city manager and bring that up. And I'm gonna actually go back and view this and see what we got out of it and try to synchronize everything just to see what our next steps might be, with the pleasure of the council. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just want to, I want to draw attention to, in our packet, pages 4-2 and 4-3. And these are the projects which we have previously given direction to staff as to those directions that the prior council thought were important, and staff is actually working on and will be working on over the course of the next 6 months. I don't know whether this particular list, Mr. Clark, is posted on the website or not, but if it's not, I would suggest it would be. And I would also suggest that somehow, when we have these ongoing projects that are listed within our packet tonight, that there be a way for the public to comment on whatever the projects are on here, because this is an extensive list and it includes everything that the council had given staff direction on prior, and I don't really see anything on here, maybe not as specific as what Mr. Miley suggested, that we coordinate trying to get second dwellings
legalize those second dwellings if they've gone ahead and become legalized through the sanitation district. It's not quite that specific, but it clearly covers that because we do have on here the second dwelling unit. So I think it's really important that this be posted so that the community can see exactly what we are working on over the next 6 months. And then they can come to a meeting and talk during public comment about it, or they can react on the website. And I think it's really essential that we have some sort of an interaction so that the council members can go in and look and see what comments are on that website. And I know it's getting late. So
I do want to move, but before I move on, I wasn't at the dais and I left my speaker card, and I do have two speakers that want to speak on this item. So before we move on, I'm just going to have them speak. Mr. Coyne.
Thank you, Mayor, Laura, and members of the council. My name is Alistair Coyne, P.O. Box 1523, Ojai. I support your acknowledgement of the city's need to discuss cultural resource protection procedures. I'd like to remind you about Ojai's general plan. The California Supreme Court has called the general plan the constitution for a city. It's the most important policy document that Ojai has, and all zoning codes and procedures need to be consistent with this document. The conservation element of the general plan requires preservation or appropriate investigation of known and potential cultural resources. It doesn't matter whether CEQA applies, whether the project is deemed ministerial or exempt. Ojai has a legal obligation to preserve cultural resources regardless of CEQA because of the general plan. All development must consider appropriate protections for cultural resources. Monitoring by a Native American and an archaeologist is not a substitute for review of appropriate cultural resource protections. It's too late when a backhoe or a bulldozer destroys an archaeological site. The general plan requires conformity with the zoning ordinance. It's noted that Ojai has no zoning ordinance protecting cultural resources. Page 10 of the open space element states, conflicts in zoning will be resolved as expeditiously as possible. This is also required by state law. I urge you to make it a priority to develop a zoning ordinance to protect cultural resources and direct staff to appropriately review cultural resources for all developments. The city must also establish a working relationship with the local tribe and respect their recommendations and knowledge. Thank you very much.
Mr. Tumamite.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Tumamite. I lived at 992 El Camino Corto in Ojai. I'm here tonight to discuss the city council's recommendations, and I've read the general plan in regards to the archaeological and cultural resources in the area, and it does lack our input as Native American people of this valley, and I would like to see the staff implement issues that in our regards to the general plan. And I do have to make comment on Council Member Clapp's. I feel your pain, because when archaeological sites are indiscriminately destroyed, I know where you're coming from. I can see that. It's something very, very dear and close to me. And I would certainly please ask you as a council to sit down with us and discuss what needs to be changed in the general plan and how we can implement and add to the general plan to make things work and provide better protection for these archaeological sites. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
May I make a comment on that?
Councilmember Wyler.
Sir, that is precisely what I want to see more of. And you talk about thinking out of the box. We don't need to just have every initiative or concept for an initiative be delegated to staff. You talked about inviting basically like a task force or a study group, and perhaps involving members of council, perhaps commissioners. I really think that's something we need to do much more of. I've kind of held my tongue about some of the comments about the transit occupancy issue, but that's going to be the suggestion I make there too. We start with community task force study groups, whatever you want to call them, ad hoc committees, before staff in many of these types of situations and many of these types of challenges. So I welcome exactly what you're talking about, and I think we should do what you're talking about, and we should do more of it. we start with a community bottom-up based group before it even gets to a staff. And I hope that us as a council, as a body, doesn't, kind of gets out of the habit of saying, hey, staff, come up with an idea for us. No, let's start with the community before we necessarily, we have to look at the circumstances, and some things are more appropriately handled maybe the traditional way, but I think we need to do more of what you just said.
And Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Clapp.
I would suggest that maybe you go to the next HPC meeting and discuss with them, maybe participating in the discussion that I suggested that they have about how to strengthen the historic guidelines in the community, which would also include the cultural resources as well as the architectural resources. So I think that would be a great place to start, and maybe they could potentially start with a subcommittee and you could participate on that level.
Well, I
And
certainly would do that. And
Yeah, I
certainly
think it's a
do
great
appreciate
idea.
that, and want to thank all of you for your considerations.
Yeah.
Well, thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We are going to be moving on with our agenda, item number 5, and this is council representatives to county and regional boards, Libby Bowl Committee, council committees, and community volunteer groups. Rhonda, are you going to do the staff report? Yes.
Mayor, Laura, a quick staff report is basically you guys need to appoint yourselves to regional committees. I just wanted to point out that the Ojai Sanitation District and Ojai Green Coalition, Ojai Valley Green Coalition can be members from the public. So it could be Mr. Quilisi or someone else. I can advertise for volunteers if you so choose, if you give me direction.
Which one's the Green Coalition and which one
The
else?
Green Coalition and the Ojai Sanitary
Ojai
District.
Sanitary.
The other ones require elected officials.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to start off with our current appointments, and I don't know if anybody feels any desire to be on certain
Yes,
agency.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, I was the alternate for the VRSD, and I would like to become the representative for the VRSD, to continue my service on that commission. And,
Ventura Regional.
yeah, VRSD, and also continue with the OBGMA. I also think there might be a really valuable, although I don't think I can do it, going to the Ventura, not the Ventura, the Ojai Regional, the Ojai Sanitation District, but I believe they meet at 3:30 in the afternoon.
They do.
Yeah, I just can't do that. And I would also be more than happy to volunteer for the Green Coalition and continue on VCTC if it's council's pleasure.
Okay, so I will leave VCTC an option and also Green Coalition as an option. Okay. Any other council member, Wyrick?
I'll express myself. Starting from the very back, and on the Audit Budget Committee, one council representative to serve with the mayor. I think, I have some special qualifications for that, being over a decade as a vice president for business affairs for a public agency and in charge of a budget process. Was one of the one of the departments answering to me. So I'd like to do that if nobody else, feels on the Audit Budget Committee. On the Ojai Valley Sanitary District, I think we should have a primary and an alternate on that. I know, Councilman Haney, you have an interest in it. I certainly have an interest in it. The 3:30 time is problematical. I just would suggest that if you and I both have an interest in it, maybe we look at both covering that, given the awkward time, perhaps between the two of us. We could cover that.
I don't, maybe if we're gonna share that, why don't we share the Ventura Regional Sanitation District too? It sounds like they go hand in hand.
Well, I thought, Councilmember Clapp.
Councilman Clapp already, yeah.
Well, we could have an alternate to that.
alternate, yes, we do need an alternate with VRSD.
Do we want to suggest having an alternate for the Ojai Valley Sanitary District, or do you guys just?
I think we should, given the time.
So who would want to volunteer as an alternate and who would want to? I'm hearing Councilmember Haney and Councilmember Wyrick.
I'll leave it up to you.
I've been going to, I don't know. I don't, you know, I've been involved with them already. We did a 90-day ad hoc on that.
So
When you want to,
would it be okay then to just direct you as the liaison and then Randy as an alternate?
yes, that'd
And
be
then
okay.
would it be beneficial to have you also as an alternate for VRSD?
I'd be happy with that,
Okay.
if that's okay with.
Yeah.
And the only other special point I want to make is that with the Economic Development Collaborative, the EDC-VC, I think I have some special expertise in that as well.
Okay. And I'm more than happy to leave that up. It's been a really good agent or board to be on. I think it's very beneficial to Ojai. So if it's okay with Mayor Pro Tem Blatz to having you as a rep, if that's
Fine with me.
that's fine with me too.
And I can stay as the alternate. on
As the
that.
alternate. Okay.
So Warwick on EDC?
Yes.
So not you?
No, not me. Mayor Pro Tem.
Who's the primary on it?
Councilmember Wyberg.
Okay.
Councilmember Blatz, do you have any preference on the ones that you sit right now? Would
Well,
you
the
still
only,
cont-
the only one that I definitely have a preference on is Gold Coast Transit, seeing as I'm the board of I'm the chairman of the board. So I think I should probably stay on that. And I've always enjoyed VCOG. It meets at a good time. You know, it only meets 4 times a year, and it's at 5 o'clock in Camarillo, which meets my schedule pretty well. So I'm
Okay.
happy to stay on that. But again, if anyone else wants VCOG, that's fine. My only problem is sometimes the afternoon scheduled meetings are very difficult for me to get to.
Okay. Well, I guess that's okay with me. I have no objections to the Gold Coast Transit and the VCOG. But the only thing we would have to do is find alternates. Miss Councilmember Clapp, you're on the Gold Coast Transit for alternate. Could you still do that?
Yeah,
or?
I can do that, because Councilman Blatz rarely misses them.
I'm probably not going to miss any of those,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you know, and so it's seldom if never, and
What
I'm fine
about
with that.
VCOG? Do we know when they meet or alternate?
That was Mayor Strobel.
I think that's an excellent one for the mayor to be maybe the alternate on.
On which one?
The VCOG.
VCOG.
They meet at 5 PM until 6 PM in Camarillo, January, April, July, and end of year. They meet 4 times a year on a third Thursday.
On the third Thursday? I could do that if I'm not doing the EDVC.
The only problem with it is it creates a conflict, as the mayor knows, with the Park and Recreations Commission in the month in which it meets, because I'm the liaison to Park and Recreation, and I had to go to VCOG, so the mayor sat in at Park and Recreation. So that's the only,
It alternates every 3 months, so
Yeah, it's
you
only
might,
every-
you might actually be out of it if they meet.
I
what
will.
Is it 4 times a
yeah.
year?
Next time it won't be a conflict.
Yeah. So I,
So is Blatz gonna remain the rep? on
Yeah.
VCOG?
I'll remain the
Laura will
rep.
be the alternate?
yeah.
Okay.
Is there any agency that it's mandated for a
Yeah,
mayor
you
to be
You have to
on?
be on some, I believe.
I think you have to be on
Oh, go ahead.
The
Joint
City
pa-
selection.
Joint powers.
joint powers.
And city selection is, it's always the mayor, mayor pro
Right.
tem.
Okay, so that would be the CGPIA.
What about LAFCO?
Need to do, and LAFCO's appointed by the county of Ventura. They'll actually be holding a meeting on January 30th. The mayor will attend. If he's unable to attend, we will need to give recommendations to whoever attends, if we want to make a recommendation for LAFCO. But
And
it's
That's a
always,
4-year term.
yes. It was Councilmember Smith, but she's retired.
And then how often do they meet?
LAFCO? I'm not sure.
Rarely.
I think it's when there's rarely, I think.
Very rare.
I could attend LAFCO.
One.
I'm interested in actually attending their.
I would support that. I
Yeah,
think
so-
having
Yeah, I
the
think it would
mayor
be good, yes.
as LAFCO representative is excellent.
And here's a possibility with OBGMA that Councilman Haney, I could do OBGMA until the sustainability plan is completed, and then I could go to the alternate, and Councilman Haney could become the rep to OBGMA. Do you want to do that?
Until the,
Sustainability plan's done?
yeah, that's fine with me.
And then you could still come, but I feel an obligation to finish my participation in the subcommittee, but then,
Oh, okay.
once that's done, then I could go into the alternate position, and then you could go into the primary position.
That's excellent.
That's fine.
You want to do that? Okay. Because you don't have anything else. Where are you?
No, I'm with planning right now.
There's also the county
Skag.
animal regulation and SCAG.
Yes, we need representatives for county
Oh,
animal and
SCAG's an
SCAG.
important one.
Who traditionally,
Currently, who's
SCAG now?
appointed for SCAG?
It was the mayor. It was Mayor Laura attended last year. You only attend the annual meeting, which will be,
March.
it's usually March or April.
Can
And
we-
they always suggest it be somebody who serves on BCTC or VCOG.
well, that would be Mayor Laura, or
No, it
Be
would
Blatz
Mayor
or
Blatz.
Clapp.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz.
Mayor Pro Tem Blatz.
Or
Okay.
we don't have to send a representative to SCAG.
Yeah.
Because we have Carl Morehouse.
I would highly encourage us to. I know that Carl Morehouse, he does a good job, but it's always good for one of us to be there.
I would
Because
say-
there are really important issues there. Last year I went because nobody else could go. But I mean, and I think it's anyone could go. It's just that
Correct.
the only one person could vote.
Vote.
I think one of the two of you would be.
Yeah, I'll be glad to go.
Okay.
Okay,
Blatz.
Blatz.
When is it?
I think it's.
The only reason being is I'm going to be out of town for 2 weeks in March.
in the back of our-
The first 2 weeks of March.
It is
It's gonna be May,
7th.
May
Okay.
7th
Who's
through
gonna
May
be the
8th,
alternate on
in
VCOG?
Palm Desert.
Okay.
Could be. We don't have a
We need an
alternate
alternate on VCOG.
VCOG.
Alternate.
Councilmember
Well, I'll
Haney,
take,
would he-
yeah,
Wanna do
the
that?
quiet guy over here, I'll take that.
Okay, the quiet guy.
And now I need animal control.
I don't do dogs.
And that meets in Camril.
Yes.
What was the date on SCAG?
May 7th through May 8th.
Very little.
Who's currently on animal regulation?
It was Carlin.
Carlin and it's Smith.
You know, I'll do that then.
Want to do animal? Woof woof.
And then we
They
have,
meet quarterly, first or second Thursday of the month in Camarillo. Meet quarterly, so 4 meetings, 3 meetings.
that's fine.
I have a question about the county animal regulation. Mr. Clark, could you maybe help me with this question? Does this have anything to do with, like, the animal people patrolling Shelf Road, or is this something that,
Yeah, it's an advisory committee to the Animal Services Director at the county. And that person oversees the patrol people.
well, this could be a really important commission, because we're having trouble on Shelf Road, we're having trouble throughout the community with dogs off leash. So having a representative there could
The other thing is
potentially-
I think they're going to be wanting to renegotiate the agreement, the animal services agreement this year. That's likely to come up.
Is that good or, is that good or bad?
Depends how the negotiations come out.
Yeah. That's why we need to be there. That's why we need to be there.
Yes, so it sounds like a really important
That
one.
negotiation won't occur at the committee, but it'll be something that's related.
So then we need an alternate for that, too.
I could be an alternate to that. Yeah. And then the last one, if I could stay on it, I'm more than happy to do it, is the Ojai Green Coalition. If
Yes.
anybody,
Oh, let's see. Okay, I'm fine with that. Go ahead.
yeah, I could
Yeah.
stay on it unless somebody really wants to do it.
Councilman Clapp, did you want to? Billy?
Well, let's see, I'm doing alternate to Gold Coast. I'm still on BGMA. That's fine. Go ahead and go with the Green Coalition.
Okay, so I'll stick with them.
I need 2 representatives for Levy Bowl Subcommittee. They will be meeting once this year.
Once,
Well,
I wouldn't
I-
mind doing
I
that.
don't know how.
So actually, I think this is an ad hoc committee, and it's likely that they'll meet more than once.
Okay, more once.
I don't
Wanna do
know,
that?
I'd enjoy doing that.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah, you'd be good on
Councilmember
that.
Haney.
We need to.
Two.
Councilman Laura, Mayor Laura, sorry. I'd like to bring up one additional, one that was on our goals, and I've communicated to you, it's the Ojai Valley School District. I think we need a liaison. I don't know if it should rotate or not rotate. I think we need to add that. I opened suggestions about how to do it, whether it should be, set up in our 90-day rotation approach, or be more of a like a one-year appointment, perhaps. I certainly want to volunteer to do it. I have a very keen interest in this. I think it's very important that the city's relationship be open and communicative between the largest employer in the Ojai Valley, and that, especially with Measure J, starting up with a lot of construction projects in the city, frankly, I don't want the load and the burden of all of that communication to be purely between the superintendent and the city manager. I think there should be school board to city council communication.
I agree. I just have questions for staff or for our city attorney. Could we just suggest to be on that board, or do we need a procedure?
Well, I'm not talking about being on the board.
Or, I mean, be a liaison.
Liaison.
So do we need a protocol for that, or should we just show up and say, we want to participate in your meetings? This is what's going on in the city. Is there?
You don't, I mean, I think you can appoint among yourselves someone to be a liaison to them. It's entirely up, then it becomes, I think, a civic, political issue to how to.
Do they want to recognize you?
To how to,
Yeah,
how
it would
to,
be
how
up
to
to them.
interface. There's no formal role for a
I know
separate
that
district.
the school board, the newly elected school board members, which is the working majority, have all expressed a desire for this to happen.
Okay.
And I'd like to volunteer to at least start out.
I'm more than happy to
Would we
agree
need
with
to
that.
vote on adding this as a,
No, you
As a board.
okay.
The staff,
I
and
think
I'll add
it's,
it.
I think it's critical. I
Okay.
would support it.
I still need one more Libby Bowl
Yes, you do.
subcommittee member, ad hoc.
How about you, Paul? That'd be-
No,
Uh,
I'm on it now, I think.
City
Yeah.
manager, do you
Libby
know
Bowl
when they,
Subcommittee?
will they be meeting in the
Oh,
afternoon?
Randy was gonna do
We,
it, so,
we can, we can set the meetings as needed.
Okay.
They need to.
But it's
so
two
have,
of us.
so Randy and you then? Oh,
Okay.
And do we have an alternate for the school board, just in case? Or should we just say, I could be the alternate?
great.
Okay.
All right, so I think we got everything. Did we got
Well,
everything?
what about all the agencies associated? Do we appoint anyone to all of these?
No, just the list that I provided in the report, and I will bring back a clean list at the next meeting, and I'll email it so you guys can verify everything before I post it. Thank you.
And the dates will be needed for it?
Yes.
Well, thank you, guys.
Okay, moving
Our next
on.
item
Where are we?
is our, I believe it's the RFP, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Is the RFP to city attorney. Let me get that clear, city attorney.
The lawyer.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The RFP is very similar to the RFP that we've used in the past. But I did want to point out that we received some comments after the agenda was posted, which are on a separate piece of paper that was passed out tonight. So you might want to look at those comments, which suggested some changes to the RFP.
I'm going to go ahead and take authorship for a couple of those. Some of them came from me, and I'm going to start with the easy ones in my mind, and that is that obviously we should be correct about the meeting time.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that we use the latest demographic numbers of 7,600 instead of 8,000. I think those are kind of low-hanging fruit. Some of the other comments I made were more substantive, and I don't want to monopolize the discussion, but I'll start out with one and then come back, and that is that keying on a comment that was made by Councilman Haney, it does appear to me that, based on information I saw from the League of California Cities, that we can specify a distance from Ojai for residency. That's what we can't specify having to live in the city, but we can specify reasonable distance.
If I could comment on that, there's for emergency responders, it's not all employees, they have to have emergency response. and you can have it for the purpose of the accessibility and emergencies. And so we have to make some nexus finding. Also, I was going to point out this is not an employment situation. This is a contract. So I think you have more freedom. It's a trade-off you're going to have to make. Same thing went through when I interviewed. It's a trade-off you're going to have to make between the availability of the skill sets that you're looking for, together with regional accessibility. And I think the best, I think what you do in these is it becomes a factor in your evaluation, and make it clear that you put a value on a firm having an individual, or a firm, wherever you're going to go with, has some local nexus to the Ojai Valley. So, and I think because it's a contract, I think you have more freedom. I mean, if a firm doesn't want to, if the firm doesn't have somebody, then I don't think you want to disqualify them from bidding on your proposal, but just make that as a factor, and you put it in your proposal that way.
Mr. Mayor, if I could comment on that specifically, that's the one thing that I do have quite a bit of input on, having just hired new counsel for and going through the entire process with Gold Coast Transit, who just changed our firm, and also talking to other mayors throughout the county who have changed firms. It was the intent of Gold Coast Transit to find a local firm. We had a local firm that we were utilizing because of the $65 million project that we have going for the new service and maintenance facility. We felt that the skill set that the local firm offered was not sufficient enough, so we decided to look elsewhere. We really wanted to find a local firm, and we had a response of probably 10. We narrowed it down to 4, and not one of the 4 that were local firms made that list. I think that we all know that we would prefer to have a local firm be our city attorney. But if you limit the geographic area for which you're going to look, you may be limiting the skill set that applies. And I don't think that really does us benefit. We had to go to an LA firm for Gold Coast, and they have offices all over the state, one of the largest firms in the state. And it's a little bit different because of the huge construction project that's going on. We wanted to have specific construction help in contracting and architectural agreements and things like that. And we wanted to look for a firm that was going to be able to offer all those services and not have to shop a lot out. We don't really have that. But I will tell you that there was response from 4 local firms that all do municipal law, and they didn't make it to the final round. So I just think that if we know that we're looking for a local firm, and if one firm or individual comes forward, we certainly don't have to, I don't believe, Mr. Fletcher, do we, have to justify who we select, as long as they meet a minimum qualification, I
this
suppose.
is an open professional services negotiation.
So we don't have to take the most qualified if we thought that the most qualified and their distance from us was not outweighing someone that might not be as qualified but was real close. So I just don't think we need to worry about putting a limit on the area. We can do that just internally. But if we do put it on there, then we may not get somebody that's going to, that's just my thought.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Clapp.
I want good legal advice, the best legal advice I can find. And I think we have to remember what a city attorney's duties are. His duties are not to advocate for a policy. They're not to opine about his opinion. His job is legal opinion, legal advice, and the most highly qualified. I want the best brain surgeon. I want the best accountant. I want the best lawyer, I want the best, doctor. And I think we need to keep our eye on what their duties are. I think that's
agree.
really important.
I really do agree with that.
And I'll just leave it with, I'm fine with that, but I will definitely be advocating if they're equal, closer's better.
And I think I really empathize with that as well.
Any other comments on the issue of either adding a distance? Because I concur with our council member Clapp and Mayor Pro Tem Blatz on that.
Yeah, I think my only comment was not a 30-mile radius, but a 60-mile. That's how I do my business. But again, we want the best qualified with in the back of our minds that if local is better than long distance. So.
Okay. Yeah.
I have another issue, but
yeah,
I don't. Is other people? I don't want to.
I think we got that one.
Okay, I have another issue, but I don't want to. If others have another issue they want to bring up on. Okay, I did want to raise the issue of contact and submittals. I do think it's important to signal that the organizational reality of the city attorney, and I think we ought to consider one or two things. One is that the submittals for city attorney be addressed to the mayor. Because it is the council that is hiring the city attorney, appointing the city attorney, as opposed to the city manager. And that's not meant to make, any disrespect or anything. It's going to go to the same place. It's just a matter of the signal about the importance of what this position is, which is our general counsel. And the second thing is, I think on the inquiries about the RFP, that those inquiries also ought to be directed to the mayor rather than to the city manager. And that's not to say that there would be an exclusion in any way of the city manager in terms of responding to those inquiries, but that would be handled through the city council's chair or the mayor. And I just think that I think that's important.
Any other comments from council members or
Mayor,
input
members
from
of council,
staff?
I'll make an observation for you in the RFP process. I would recommend, though, a clear statement in the RFP to prohibit lobbying, or the one downside of directing inquiries to the mayor. In some cases, can invite some firms to start a lobbying process, and I think you want to avoid that at almost any cost.
That point's well taken.
Yeah, so that's the one way by saying all inquiries should go to one place or to the staff. And I think should have a prohibition on individual contacts with council members, so it doesn't be. I can tell you some scary stories of lobbying exercises during an RFP process.
I think that point's well taken, but I also think it's important that there not be any appearance that staff is in any way steering, the responses as well. So that's why I think that prohibition with the direction of inquiries would be very well taken.
Any other comment? Yeah, Councilmember Haney.
The city manager works for the mayor and works for the city council.
Well, it works for the council.
Works for the mayor and for the city council, correct? So I personally don't have anything wrong with how it's set up right now. It's a point of contact. It's not the decision maker. So to me, it's just verbiage. But we're directing the city manager to write this RFP and in turn receive this information, who in turn he's going to disseminate to us. So I just think
I just think the routing of inquiries ought to go to the mayor. So.
Councilmember Clapp.
And how do we plan to conduct the interviews?
That we
still routing.
Is that another discussion?
I mean, that's a.
That's me.
I don't.
One step ahead.
Yeah, Councilmember Blatz. Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't, and let me just ask Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Clark. I have no problem with it saying please respond to the mayor. Of course, it's going to have the mayor's name on it, but it's going to go to the city manager because we need to have everything compiled like we did before. And I don't think we expect the mayor to do that. And then I think the way that we did it the last time worked well, where we rated it and looked at it and got their proposals, and then we sat down and we went through it and boiled it down to, I believe, 3 or 4, and then we interviewed. Now, I guess my question is, does the interviewing process need to be part of a public hearing, or can it be done as a private session?
Yeah, Madam, yeah, even though it's still the appointing of an official, and for it's my opinion, I've heard no city attorney or county council with a different position on this, it's still entitled to a personnel closed session. I will tell you that sometimes in the city manager world, sometimes there's public sessions and then closed sessions. But when I went through the interview process with you in the public interview session, it was fine. I honestly felt that we didn't have a chance to have some more pointed and maybe, I firmly believe the outcome would have been the same. Or I should certainly hope the outcome would have been the same. So maybe I should really have the best interest in the whole process. But because I think you really want to be able to ask them, that's why you have personal exception for closed sessions, because you need to ask them some pointed questions. You want someone to be extremely blunt, or at least open with you. And so, yes, you're fully entitled to do it in a closed session.
I guess that's it. Council members club. The question is whether, if we're going to do it like you guys did last time, or are we going to have a change of process?
Yeah, and I guess, is that something we decide now or later?
So I think part of it depends on how many responses you get. So maybe we just wait and see what that looks like, and then you can make some decisions on whether you want to have a screening committee or just everybody's the screening committee, and how you want to do the interviews and how many you want to interview.
And I'd like to respond to what Mr. Fletcher said about the benefit of a closed session interview in personnel matters in particular. Having been through the public process and been through the more private personnel interview process, I think that my take from that is that it is really, in a personnel matter, it's really much more beneficial to have it be a closed session matter. And it's not about not being transparent. It's about having that ability to have those really forthright, open conversations that are really critical in this kind of a decision-making process. So I personally would like to have it be closed session this time.
Any more comments on the RFP? Or I did read the suggestions, and I really appreciate our staff putting it together, Clark. And just some points that Councilmember Wyrick pointed out. I do see the benefit of I know I'm not going to be screening, or I'm not going to be compiling the applications, but I agree that I think it would be appropriate just to have the mayor, whoever's mayor, just because I think it's protocol. You're going to come work for the council. Not that the mayor has sole power of controlling the council. It's not like that. It's just one vote on the council. It's the whole council that he's really working for. So I have no objections to that at all. So, any other suggestions to the RFP? No. Any buddy from the public wanting to comment? No. If no one has any more further comments, then I guess our staff already has directions, or Councilmember White. Yeah. Okay. And so moving on, we could still get to one item, and our last item being our transient rentals.
Can I do 2 minutes really quick? No staff report. We understand why we don't need one right now. It's premature. I think it's a perfect example of where public process is important, community input's important, before we even get to staff. And since Councilperson Clapp and myself have shown a special interest in this, what does the rest of the council think about a 90-day ad hoc committee? Councilman Clapp and myself go out and organize some community input and report back to the council. what we learn.
I think we should try it. I'd have no objections to it if you guys are willing to go out and then compile 90 days, whatever it is. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys have in mind to get public input. So that would be my only question: how you're gonna formulate or what's gonna be what.
Well, I certainly, I've had, I think that Councilman Clapp and I could, for example, identify certain stakeholders in the community that have special concern about this. We have everyone from the lodging community to the real estate community to the festivals, the people associated with tourism, and the residents, people with residential groups that are concerned about residential integrity. This is a complicated, sensitive issue, and I think that we need to try to solicit as broad a sense of what needs to be considered and how to reconcile the goals that you had up there, a tourist economy and respect for neighborhoods. We need to find a way to reconcile it. And right now the situation is simply not tenable to have going into a 5th year of a non-enforcement because we don't, what we did previously didn't work, where we have an expectation of non-enforcement of an important code matter. That's not appropriate, and it's not appropriate for people to be engaged in commercial activity not paying a transit occupancy tax in competition with those that are. So I would contend the situation is not tenable, and we need to simply elevate it in terms of trying to flesh out the issue and get input and report back to this council, and then before we even start talking about staff reports.
And I think that being said, pardon me, you would not be leading the witness. I don't think that we would go in with any sort of
absolutely not
attempt to drive the conversation. I think it would be much more like your classic big tablet and brainstorming, and we write down what people say and the ideas of what they have to say. I don't think Mr. Wyrick or I would have any intention at all of going in there and trying to drive a personal agenda on the matter. I think we want to hear what they have to say and what their suggestions are.
And besides which, she and I don't agree on everything. So
that's right.
Councilmember Haiti.
I heard 4 or 5 players in it. What I didn't hear are the people that actually have them. And they need to
you're absolutely right. People
need to be a part of that conversation.
You're absolutely correct. And that was my oversight, and I apologize. You're absolutely correct.
School district would be a good one, too.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting
Mayor
that.
Pro Tem Blatz, do you have any comments?
No, I agree.
Okay, I'm just, and just another observation more than anything. It's easy to get, I guess, talk to different agencies like real estate or certain ones that are out there. The chamber possibly could be one. I'm interested to see how the community engaging the residents is going to work out, because that's very broad. I mean, I'm more than happy you are thinking outside the box. I'm happy. I don't know if you guys are going to use any of the staff time to compile some of this information to create meeting space. I mean, I don't know. So I'll just leave that up to you guys.
I see it more of as far as the neighborhood, the individuals with homes. I think it would be, I would say that we could sit down with your city map and go, okay, we announce a meeting here in this area, here and here and here and here, sort of like the how they do with the Move On does this a lot, where they have these neighborhood meetings, and just send out an announcement to each district and have a home where people can meet or something of that nature. So we do reach out to each district, break it down to smaller units so that we can actually can manage it. And you have the actual individuals that live in those neighborhoods talk as well, not just people with financial interest in it. Mm-hmm. Which is basically the other stakeholders that we're talking about, would be the other hoteliers, I'm escaping my brain right now, the retail or whatever. Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is a discussion item. Anybody from the public wishing to make?
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. One more thing. We do have two parts in this discussion. It is also the number 2. the recommendation to direct the city manager to begin enforcing the existing regulations, which only allow transient rentals in resident zones with a conditional use permit by a date certain determined appropriate by the city council. I would like to also address that as well, briefly if we can, or if we can come up with a decision briefly.
Go ahead.
I'm done.
I just think we should take no, I think we should
Just
simply
wait on that.
continue that and not do anything on that.
Yeah, it's too rushed.
Right.
I agree.
Okay.
Anybody from the public wishing to comment on this item? Mr. Miley? Yes, Mr. Miley?
I know.
Thank you for your patience. Appreciate it.
That's my understanding.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Bill Miley. I would like to present a position on vacation rentals of not allowing any vacation rentals in the city, or at least limiting their numbers. And the major arguments supporting my points are economic and the disruption of community neighborhood integrity. And as a point of evidence, I believe, in checking the city of Santa Monica today, they banned vacation rentals. And I also would like to suggest, jumping to the second item on the agenda, or the staff report, that you do not authorize the city manager to enforce the current ordinance, which I never could find, by the way. I searched for vacation rentals. I never found it in this code. Don't ask the city manager to enforce it with a conditional use permit, because I understood from your report that a conditional use permit goes to the land. So you give it to them and they sell it and it stays and it stays and it stays. And that's not right. I understand there's a suggestion for a special permit. That would be best, okay? So I have a few points I'd like to make. The subject right now in my paragraph is zoning integrity. We zone for resort, motel, hotel businesses in a way that supports a balance of commercial, business, visitors, recreation, arts, multiple resident and single residential areas. We establish residential neighborhood zoning for a purpose. It's been historic and what I think is best practice. The values for creating our city, operating our city, and future functioning are well established in our general plan and its various elements, and we value integrity. We support local people, businesses, and tend to try and maintain local control, local services, economic viability, and we try to dampen speculation. So the subject of this paragraph is lodging investments. Code-wise, we support the building and operation of visitor overnight lodging for short stays, week stays, and longer stays. The businesses have very large investments dedicated to serving tourists and other visitors to our city and valley, and chipping away at their clientele by permitting houses in residential zone neighborhoods to become vacation visitor lodging, in my opinion, is unfair and creates a leaking of economic strength from those official visitor lodgings. Subject, house price increases. Again, from an economic point of view, it creates, in my opinion, speculation energies in residential housing by driving up prices where buyers intend to charge high-end prices for short residential stays. If the Ojai Valley was not who we are without its history, the mountain valley, the agriculture, artist-based communities, and Mr. Libby's vision and land purchases, we would not have a growing demand for residential house purchases because nobody would want to come here. Our city's destiny. We're a hot destination. We're a hot destination, a desirable place to come and stay a while. That's how some vacation homes can charge $800 per night on weekends. I said this a couple of years ago for the Apple House. I found it on the website. You may remember that, some of you. Buy a house, convert it to a vacation rental, and ultimately, years later, move here to escape the crush of other areas. That's not what I want. I want folks who come here and buy to become part of our community, support and add to its values, to its strength. We want and need families with school-aged children to enroll in our schools, help support and strengthen our school system, and participate in our government functions. Become part of our city and keep it a vibrant city. So, what do vacation rentals, they don't do this. They fail to meet and support the values found in our general plan. They can hollow out, in my opinion, residential neighborhoods by turning residential homes into visitors' lodging. One and maybe more on a city block. Subject, dollars and cents. What's in it for the city and its residents? A transient occupancy tax of 10 to 12%, if collected. Likely, if vacation rentals do not exist, much of the TOT money would still come from the city from our formal lodging businesses in proper zones. Almost through. Several points to end this point of view. One, vacation rentals in residential neighborhoods can hollow out the integrity of a residential neighborhood. I propose or say. Two, it's a desirable visitor designation like Ojai. House prices will be driven higher by purchases of homes turned into vacation rentals. This can be seen as a speculative economic factor. The purpose of vacation rentals is to make money, not for the city, but for the property owners. Three, making money is not the purpose of residential zoning. It's not a zone which has as one of its primary creation factors the making of money off the land and the structures. In my opinion, it violates the value of zoning integrity. It dilutes the neighborhood cohesiveness and turns residential houses into monopoly games. Please consider banning or limiting vacation rentals in residential zones. Don't give them conditional use permits, give them special permits. It'll prevent our city from becoming more of a monopoly game than it already is. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Milad is precisely the kind of well-reasoned, thoughtful presentation that I think we're going to find throughout this community, and I think we can just try to facilitate compiling that. Thank you.
I don't know if it would be appropriate. I know we had probably some people in the audience that wanted to give possibly input, just like Mr. Miley did. Would it be beneficial if we put that on their agenda next, just to make clear to the public that we are taking public comment?
Sure.
And I don't know if you possibly want to identify certain meeting sites in the community that you want to invite?
Well, let us have a chance to talk about it, and
or just as
I think we should have.
We could put
How about we have
an
a
update?
report
Yeah.
at the next meeting on this, that we report back on our progress.
An outline of what we
Yeah.
plan to do. And is there anyone else that wants to speak on this?
Is there
matter? Because it
anybody
was
else
on
that
the
wants to
agenda.
speak? Okay. All right, great. Maybe you guys could do a PowerPoint just like I did.
I need some help.
All right, well, if that's done,
Do we need to vote on this? Okay.
Okay. Number 8 is we're going to be closing as the council, and we're going to be
gonna
reconvening
continue.
it. Or I think we did all the
covered everything.
items.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did it before, and then we're going to be reconvening as the Ojai Redevelopment Successor Agency.
Yeah. Move to approve the consent calendar.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or do we have to do roll
We
call?
have to do roll call because
Roll
of
call.
money.
Oh, yeah.
Clapp?
Yes.
Haney? Wyrick?
Yes.
Blatz?
Yeah.
Lara?
Here, I mean, there I go again. You confuse Yes, geez, for paying attention
I'm
over
gonna go
here.
on key.
We're gonna close as the Ojai Redevelopment Successor Agency and convene as a city council. Do we have any report from our council members?
No.
It's too late.
Councilmember Ryrick.
The only thing that I'll have to say is at the VCOG meeting last week, the hot topic was group homes. And we had a presentation by the attorney for, I think it was Fillmore, might have been Moore Park, but the attorney, the city attorney, which was very good, and it explained the difference between group homes and halfway houses, so to speak, and what you can regulate and what you can't regulate. It was very interesting because we're not the only city that's running into this now. And one of the things that was brought up is probably the only regulation you can really have on them is density. Can't have any regulation, I don't think, on the what are they, not, yeah. No, the 6 or fewer is the one that are licensed, the unlicensed
Right, the
ones.
unlicensed.
The unlicensed ones you really don't have any control over for the most part.
And if we can do density, shouldn't we get right on that? Because if it isn't in the policy, then we don't have any.
And I'm not sure what,
Needs to go on an agenda.
I'm not sure what the
Quick.
density is, because if it's number of units, because if you just enforce the Uniform Housing Code, from that density, the numbers are very high, unfortunately.
Well,
The
they were
number of
talking
persons
about
per
perhaps, not having them within
Oh,
300 or
separation.
400 feet of each other and that kind of thing.
Separation.
Yeah, separation.
Excluded from certain zones, perhaps. The problem, as we discussed in the earlier meeting, I won't take more of your time, is that unfortunately we don't have a local ordinance yet that's gone through the courts that has been blessed. So you always would prefer to get some judicial blessing on a concept so that you're not just buying another lawsuit. But again, right now, we've got to, I think, stay vigilant looking at what other cities are doing and dealing with the question of first finding out, do we have an issue with unlicensed group homes as opposed to licensed facilities that, because I don't know if we even have an issue about unlicensed group homes. Don't know yet.
Yeah.
Mayor,
Okay,
can I-
Councilmember Haney.
One of the things I looked at was the type of care they're practicing. I don't know if that's relevant, but it might be. So,
Yeah, and these are really good points. Again, coming up to priorities, how do we want to set this up?
well, there might.
How do we want to just put it on the agenda? Our goals and our objectives, where do we want to put it on the map? I think it's a valid item to put on the agenda. We just have to decide as a council where we want to direct or where we want to put it on the agenda, then direct staff. And any other reports from council members? I just want to remind the public there is a MLK this Monday that the Ohio Valley Youth Foundation puts on. So come and enjoy the day. They do a really good job. Any reports from our city manager?
I'll take a pass.
No, city attorney? Our chief?
Just real quick, the grand jury toured the PD last Friday, and they were very impressed with the police operation. We received a lot of positive comments, so.
Great.
Real short. That was
Good
it.
to hear. Thank you, chief. Any from our director, Steve?
Very briefly, we are conducting interviews for the code compliance inspector position. We are continuing to take applications on that until we have that position filled. So if anybody who's still thinking about applying for that job, they can still do so. And then secondly, met with representatives of the Ojai Valley Bike Coalition this afternoon. They have been working on their site plans for the bike park concept at Lower Libby, and then we are going to be meeting with them together to meet with groups who may be potentially affected by this, to meet with them, hear their concerns, and if they do have concerns, see if there are ways that we can possibly address them or mitigate them. So we are in the midst of coordinating that outreach.
Great.
Mayor Laura, that you raised one point I forgot to raise, and that is the issue of the compliance officer. The motion that was this body passed was for the compliance officer to be a contract part-time position. That within that definition, includes the ability for of that contract to answer to various parties. And that was not specified in the motion. And I think that is an issue because I believe there was a matter of whether that person at one point answers to the building official or to the community development director or directly to the city manager. And it, within the motion that the council passed, all of those are possible by my reading of the code. And I think that it's too late to get into it perhaps tonight, but I think that the hiring of that contract person, the policy matter of who that person answers to is an important matter that maybe we need some clarification of from council.
So we are planning on coming forward with the RFP for building services, and that's part of that discussion. I don't know if that covers what you're looking for or not.
Well, my understanding is that by reading the code, is that a compliance officer can be part of a building services contract, or it can be completely separate.
So that's part of that discussion?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
I just wanted to add one thing to that too, is also part of that discussion is actually his job description. So part of it is going to be code enforcement, and also part of it is that when he's not enforcing, is actually working in the planning division. So there's a lot of things that need to be discussed regarding that person's position, as well as just who he's reporting to.
any update or report from our Public Works Department?
Good evening. I was in the back room watching this on TV. It's a great way to work on your computer while you're watching the side, everything else, all the other activity. I just want to mention quickly that the new franchise agreement just went into effect with Harrison. And one of the great benefits of that is that there's about 120 locations in the city that have trash and recycling pickup, parks and plaza and the streets and the trolley stops and all that kind of thing. So part of that agreement was that Harrison would take over that. So they started doing that last weekend. So that means every day it's saving a significant amount of time for our crew, as well as weekends. We normally had our crew come in for 4 hours, one person on Saturday and Sunday, just to go through all those 4.5 hours. So that's very helpful. That's kind of in line with when somebody retired last year. One of our crew, we landed up contracting out all of the restroom custodial services and so on too. So I think all these things are freeing up a little bit of our crew's time so we can do a better job on public works maintenance and trying to repair all the infrastructure that was, the maintenance that was deferred. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Greg. Fabulous job. Anybody else? Our city clerk? No. Okay, with that, I adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.